Apologize that it's crowded. Should be zochet in the Beis Mikdash where it's oimdim, tzufim, and mishtachavim, ravachim. Have a lot of makom, a lot of place. Does this work? Can you hear in the back? My speaker's here. What? I know, but what's the point of having speakers? No, I hear myself. Why don't you put it up? Why don't you move the speaker in the back? I can't. No? Makes more sense.
Straight above the line. It's fine.
Got up early this morning to, I can't talk the feedback. We got to be misponated in the union of the Kinos and the Chorban. You know, Kinos is Kinos, so every year we come together, and every year, same Kinos. I wished I was on the Madrega. I once heard a story, I think it was about the Tzanzerov, that after the Suda Mafsekes, on Leil Tisha B'Av, so he got up and he stood by his window, and he looked out the window, he was just looking out the window, and looking and looking and looking, and the sun went down, and they called him, the Gabbai called him and said, Rabbi, it's time for Martyrs, the Olam is waiting for you. So he said, well, I guess we're going to have to do this again. He was just looking out the window, and he was hoping maybe he'll see something in the streets, maybe he'll see something which is signaling that Mashiach actually came. You can't be a Yush, but I was looking out the window, but I was being misponated, and I'd like to a little bit of an introduction. Kinos is Kinos, as I say, but I think that there's a mahalach here which is a little bit new. Not that I want to say chidushim, but the world changes, and that in itself is a chiddush. You know, when I was born, so it was just a few years after the Holocaust, 15 years after the Holocaust. So in history, that's a very small amount of time. To me, it seemed like it was 1,000 years away, and the people that was surrounded the Holocaust was everywhere. Everywhere was the Shoah. The people in Shul were Holocaust survivors. Everything was about tattoos on arms. And Holocaust people today, Baruch Hashem, are born. They don't see that, but at the time, 10 or 15 years. I don't think this is plugged in. 10 or 15 years after the Holocaust, I thought, as I think all kids my age thought, that it's really all over. This anti-Semitism thing. It's really like kind of like this terrible thing fell down from the heavens, and it flew into Europe, and it killed our whole family. My grandfather came alone. He had 9 brothers and sisters were all killed. Nobody knows where they are, where they went. But it was sort of like, today we're normal, today we're in America. You know, it really wasn't germane. And here we are 55, 60 years later, and it seems like it's not all over after all. It just was an immaturity, and sitting in a little bit of an oasis in time, perhaps, or at least what seemed to be an oasis in time. Maybe my own parents protected me from what was really going on. We were worried about Russians. We were doing going into bomb shelters at the time, doing the drills. You know, that's what we were into. Nobody was thinking about anti-Semitism, except for the old Jews that went through this. They thought about it all the time, but also never talked about it. You know, but here we are again. You know, like It's not just the Iranians. It's the whole European Union. Again, the same people, same countries. Treating us so unfairly, using the same languages that they use, dehumanizing Israel and the Jewish people. And I don't need to tell you that we're not in a comfortable place. Klal Yisrael is not in a comfortable place. Thank God. Now we have Pardes Project we always had. Now we have an army also. Something to be said for that. But it's not necessarily a comfortable place. So Tisha B'Av is still here. You can look out the window waiting for something to happen. We're still looking out the window. Tisha B'Av is still here. One of the biggest debate Pele of Tisha B'Av, which all the Achronim speak about, is that we don't say Tachnun on Tisha B'Av. There's all kinds of svaras given to the moyed. It's considered a moyed, but hagufakash. Like, why should it be considered a moyed? Tisha B'Av is a time which we're talking about every tsar that we could possibly have. If we go through Kinos, and we'll go through as much of it as we can, we talk about the tsars of the Chorban Bais Rishon, Chorban Bais Sheni, to the Asar Arugei Malchus, to the pogroms, to the crusades, to the Holocaust. But we don't say Tachnun. All going through all these stars, we don't say Tachnun. Like the Pele, whatever. I looked a lot around in the Achronim, different stars. It's a Pele that we shouldn't say Tachnun. It should be the Tachnun of Tachnunim. One day a year we should say Tachnun. We don't say Tachnun. And I'd like to say a Svar Pshuta, why we don't say Tachnun. The reason we don't say Tachnun is because we're still here. Isn't it an amazing mess that as we focus, as we learn, as we read, as we say Kinos about every sorrow, like we're not just an old people. The Chinese are also an old people, Havdalah. We're a people that the whole door bador, somebody's trying to wipe us out. If not the Yevonim, the Romans, not the Romans, Babylonians, not the Babylonians, the Nazis, not the Nazis, the Christians. Today, the billions of people are screaming death to the Jews. We're still here. So isn't that a simcha? So it's like there's a certain simcha on Tisha B'Av that you really don't have any other time in the whole year. You think about it. It's when can you have more? If you're not thinking about the tzaras of Klal Yisrael, okay, we're here. But if you're thinking and you're focusing and you're darshaning and you're poeticizing on the tzaras of every single generation in Klal Yisrael, we're still here. So it means to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as much as we suffer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes us in his hands and he carries us across all of the different pitfalls in history. We lost so many, we suffered so much, but we're still here. And, you wonder why we're still here. It's a mess. I have this vision in my mind that a few years ago, maybe it was 6 years ago or 7 years ago, my Rebbe Zecher Tzaddik L'Bracha, Rav Scheinberg, was taken into the emergency room in Shari Tzedek. He had actually collapsed. So I didn't know this except that I was in Shari Tzedek for another reason, and somebody saw me and they said Rav Shiva's in the emergency room, and they let me go in to visit him. He was sitting in a chair, in a wheelchair. He was all wired up, and so Baruch Hashem, I said to him, he was about 100, maybe 101. I said, the Rosh Yeshiva is still with us. Still with us. And he gave out this laugh. It was like such an interesting laugh. It was a laugh like I just outsmarted the Malach HaMavis. That's like the laugh, the laugh of Klal Yisrael. We don't say tachnun. So certain like, he's not going to get me. And I think that the reason why, and if you look through all the Kinos, the reason why we're still here is because as much as we were, and this is what we see in every single episode of tragedy in the history of Klal Yisrael, that as much as we were suffering and as much as we were inhumanely treated, we were killed, we were put in concentration camps, we were slaughtered. If you read what Nebuchadnezzar did to Klal Yisrael, we'll get there. I mean, it makes ISIS look like kid stuff. Just the discussion here in the Kinos of how killing thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Started with the old people, the young people, taking babies by their feet and smashing them into walls, brick walls. And I can't even, what we went through. But what happened in every single generation, b'chol dor v'dor, there was always a Yecheskel Hanavi, a Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, a Mordechai HaYehudi. There was always somebody who said that we suffer, but it's not over yet. There was a Rashi. And about Rashi was one of those Jews. There was always a well-placed Jew in every catastrophe, in every terrible thing that we went through. In all of these episodes that said we have to build Tein li Avne v'chachomel. We have to build further. There was Yecheskel Hanavi who said, okay, we're going into Golus, going into Babel, we need shuls, we need Batei Midrashas, Beis HaMikdash, that'll be the Mikdash Ma'at. You know, in our times, there was a Holocaust. On the ships from Europe, the Gedolei Hador were planning how to rebuild Torah in America. Ships coming to America, Rabbi Cutler, others. What are we going to do? Going to Eretz Yisrael, Ahavat Yisroel, Chasidus Rebbes. It's just amazing how we didn't, and that's us. That's a credit to Klal Yisrael, I think. That's for those Jews. Rav Cutler's had a meeting on the ship about starting Beis Medrash Gavoya in Lakewood. I never went to Beis Medrash Gavoya. Briskerov, what are we going to do to start? And this was the continuation of Torah. And I mentioned on Shabbos, how many organizations we have to build. They didn't even know what to do, but all they knew is we had to rebuild. Should we rebuild day schools? Should we build yeshivas? Should we build kolos? We even made mistakes. It doesn't make any difference. There were even mistakes in history. But the fact is that, we're all here. How many people in the room? Balei Tshuva. It's an amazing thing how Klal Yisrael was able to come back to itself, and it should come back further and further. So this was the, I think it becomes a little bit of our, nobody's going to annihilate the Jewish people, but the question is, who's going to be the ones that carry us further? And I think the truth is, it's us. It's not that many. Said yesterday in Shul, an army of 70 or 80 can change the whole world. A few hundred people can change everything, but they have to have the right headspace, a headspace of Avos Hashem, a headspace of Ahavat Yisroel, and then you can go further. And that's why we don't say Tachnun. We don't say Tachnun because of those Jews, because we're still here to tell the story. Just before I begin, I just have, I always say this and people laugh at me, but I mean it seriously. Sometimes when it's hard to understand things, so to make it easier, to explain it Kabbalistically. And it really does make it easier because some terms that we're able to somehow get some type of an insight. I was learning through the Kina of Sion Haloi Sishali, of Yehuda Levi. Sion Haloi Sishali, so I saw that Rav Soloveitchik Zatzal writes in the back, he says, Zion is, the word Zion, right? We all know it. We either we're for it or we're against it. We know about Zion, right? Zion, Zion he says, Zion, he writes, is a very difficult word to translate. He says, what does Zion actually mean? Is it Zion is like a marker. Sometimes Zion is a mountain. It brings different possibilities of what Zion is. So, like, even if we're Zionim, we have to know, like, what are we exactly? It's interesting that Arizal says, Davar Pashat, that Zion is the same gematria as Yosef. What's that, 154? Yeah. Same gematria as Yosef. Huh? 156. Yosef says Arizal was Midas HaYesod. So let's understand. So, okay, I knew something Rav Soloveitchik didn't mention. Probably knew, but he didn't mention. But Zion is Midas HaYesod. So, and this is really what I want to explain here. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Every Sefer Kaballah ever written, the Eitz Chaim, the Pri Eitz Chaim, the Ramchal, the Darach Hashem, the Tanya, every Kabbalah Sefer ever written, Chaim Vital, Shalah, they all start, the first few pages all start with the same question. Why did Hashem create the world anyway? What's the purpose of it? I'm not sure I can understand far enough to get the real answer, but I do know this, that's the question. We need to know why Hashem created the world, and for that matter, why did Hashem create us? That's the key question. We have to know what we're doing here. And the answer is because he wants to create a Malchus Hashem in this world. That's the answer. That's the question of all the Mekubalim. That's the answer of all the Mekubalim. Different languages, different drachim, different ways of getting there. That's the question. That's the answer. Malchus. Maza Malchus. Malchus is the last of the spheros, and it means that when you take the spheros of the Bria, the hidden spheros, and then Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, these are the building blocks of the Bria, but it's not a tachlis unto itself. You can't get stuck in Chesed and Gevura and Tiferes, or even in Netzach, which is Torah, and Hoid, which is the Beis HaMikdash. You can't get stuck there. You have to get to Midas HaYesod. Yesod is Yosef. Yosef Haya b'Mitzrayim, meaning that the Shechina, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants his presence to be in this world. You have to read the rest of the Kabbalah for him to know why he wants the presence to be in this world. But one thing is clear, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create a world with his presence, a world where there's an actual physical aspect to godliness, a world where we take care of each other, a world where we do mitzvahs ma'asiyos, where we put on tefillin, where we give tzedakah. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. He wanted a world of l'maisa. Apparently, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want the world to be, didn't want Torah to be ethereal. He didn't want it to be up in the air, up in outer space. In Shomayim, he wanted it to be here. So Yosef, Haya b'Mitzrayim, the lower the better. The more into this world, the better. Yosef is Midas HaYesod. This is the gematria of Zion. Zion is Midas HaYesod. Yesod is also not the end. It has to come to Malchus. Yesod is where the Shechina touches the earth. Malchus is where the earth, the seed is planted and the earth begins to sprout. What does it sprout? It sprouts Shechina, light, Dvar Hashem. If we talk about the Beis HaMikdash, and it's just so important for us, and that's why I'm speaking about this, I'm being myrich on this a little bit. So what? The Beis HaMikdash. What's the point of the Beis HaMikdash? The Beis HaMikdash is the focal point of where Yesod turns into Malchus. The Beit Shemesh, and this we could understand in a very, very simple, just for us type of a way. It's the place where finally, in the Bria, Hashem's Ratzon, Hashem's original idea of creating the world is actually happening and is actually coming true. That's what the Beis HaMikdash is. The Shechina from Shamayim is touching the Aretz. Malchus is where it takes. We were Zoichet to Yesod, we were Zoichet to Tzion, but we're not yet Zoichet completely to Malchus, because Malchus is forever. So we had a Bayis Rishon, the Bayis Rishon was destroyed before that. We had a Mishkan. We had a Bayis Sheni. What we're looking for is a Bayis Shlishi. We're looking for even more than a Bayis Shlishi. We're looking for a whole world where the Shechina is like so ingrained in the people in the world, and so in us. It's so part of our, it's like Moshe Rabbeinu, a Shechina medaberes mitzayt groinoi. That's what we have to be. We have to be Shechina people. And that's what we haven't been Zochet to. So I'd like to suggest the following. Here's my Chiddush in Avelus for today. And then we'll learn the Kinos, read the Kinos, understand the Kinos a little bit. There's a big danger when Yesod turns to Malchus. There's a sakana atzuma when the Shechina touches the earth. The sakana is that we all fall into the trap of Gashmias. How could it be that we had the Bayis Rishon and the Levium were singing and the Karbanos were being brought, and there was even, for most of the time, or in Kodesh there, and Anonim going straight up to Shemayim, and why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed? Because we did Avodah Zarah, Yuler Arais, and Shvichas Dam, isn't that a stira? You know, how do you reconcile the two ideas? I mean, this was the time of the Shechina, so perforce, when there is a Beis HaMikdash, there can't be a Chorban Beis HaMikdash. But there was a Chorban Beis HaMikdash. Why? The answer is that when there's a Beis HaMikdash, the good side is that the Shechina Shari. The bad side is, not the bad side, I shouldn't say the bad side. The dangerous side is that something holy becomes Gashmias. And when something becomes Gashmias, we fall into the trap of grabbing onto that Gashmias. And I think that this is what we're suffering from. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu then takes the Beis HaMikdash away. Understand this. Let me give you not just an example, but I'm going to show you how this actually, what I'm about to tell you, actually travels through almost all the Kinos. There's this background line through Jewish history called the Pesel Micha. Spoke about it once in the Reb Tzadok Shir, remember? Pesel Micha. It's like an obscure Shoftim Perek Yud Zayin, obscure, not understandable piece of Tanakh. This is Sefer Shoftim, mamish the whole thing. The last few Shoftim of Sefer Shoftim. V'haya ki ein melech b'Yisrael. There's a bunch of things that happen when there's no Malchus. Malchus de Arak and Malchus de Rakia. One of the things that happened is Pesel Micha. So let's just take a couple minutes here. What was Pesel Micha? Klal Yisrael's in Mitzrayim. We want to leave Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu knows he's not going anywhere without the Atzmas Yosef. Okay, go find the Atzmas Yosef in Mitzrayim. There wasn't like a kever or a Yosef, you know. It was a hidden thing. So he's not leaving. So everybody was Isaac in the Bizas Mitzrayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu looking all over the place, under every rock. He's looking for Yosef Hatzad. Finally he meets old lady Sarah Bas Osher, who heard this already from the Shema Mepharish. She learned already from grandfather Yaakov Avinu, who she remembered. And she tells him that the Atzmas Yosef was mummified somehow and put into the Nile. The Nile is very big. It doesn't look like the Yarden. The Nile's big. Looks like the Mediterranean. You know, it's like big. In there somewhere is the Atzmas Yosef. Okay, that's a big help. Say the Shem HaMepharish, which I'm going to tell you, and Well, Alpines will get the Atzmas Yosef. He says Hashem HaMavarsh has the Atzmas Yosef. A little bit earlier in history, let's just put the two stories together. We know that the Torah tells us that the bondage was so bad in Klal Yisrael that the Egyptians wouldn't give us teven. They wouldn't give us straw, which was needed, I guess, to build Chaimer Levenim. Not sure exactly how the physics of it works, but somehow straw helps. And they couldn't get it. And then Chazal tell us, explain in the Chumash, that we were actually taking, the Egyptians forced us to take Jewish children and to put them into the walls. Otherwise, we would be killed. I don't know how that works, but that's what it says. And Moshe Rabbeinu complained to HaKadosh Baruch Hu about this, as in Shmos Rabbah, complained to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, what? What do these children do? What should they do? So apparently, according to the Medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them that was something like Ben Sarah murder. It was something like the Erev Rav, it was a Ben Sarah murder. It's okay, I know what I'm doing. And Moshe Rabbeinu continued to plead with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and claim that it was unfair. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, let one, on one of the children. So that child was, the Chazal, Michiyahu. And Michiyahu was a Ben Sarah martyr. He stole the Shem HaMafarish in Chazal from Moshe Rabbeinu. And with the Shem HaMafarish, he built Pesel Micha. So that was the Pesel Micha. And thousands of people, Jews in Egypt, came to worship Pesel Micha. Hello? Kadosh Baruch Hu was taking us out of Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu is right here. He's saving us. We're going through, even at that time, started the Asar Makos. And Klal Yisrael is worshiping Pesel Micha. Why are they worshiping Pesel Micha? Worshiping Pesel Micha because Pesel Micha mitzad echad, not condoning any Pesel or any Avodah Zarah here, just explaining that Pesel Micha, on the one hand, was an idol. Pesel Masecha Loisas Elochem, you're not allowed to do that. It's the worst thing. But at the same time, it was built with the Shem HaMafarish. It had some kind of a holy attraction to it also, a holy side to it also. What you had was what humans need. What humans need is the Shem HaMafarish, wrapped in gold. Something Gashmi, something they can touch, something they can feel. Micha Chaptis. And this was the Pesel Micha. This Pesel Micha, if you'll trace it, in one form or another, either it was the same Pesel or in the time of Shimshon, they built a new one. But there was if you go to Har Ephraim and further up to Tel Dan, the Banyas, that was where Shevet Dan, which was called the Yarud Shebeshvatim. So Chazal call them the lowest of the Shvatim. Why were they the lowest of the Shvatim? They lived the highest in Dan, here and in Dan. They split up because Tamid Haya Imayim Pesel Micha. They worship the Pesel Micha. It's like a Pella Atzuma. I saw Bessler writes. He says, don't take this simply. He says here, that's a pasuk in upcoming in Dvar. Sifri says Zeh Shevet Dan. What does it mean that you have a Shevet or Mishpacha Ish that has Shirish Poira Rosh Velana? Zeh Shevet Dan Shahayaboy Pesel Micha. They had the Pesel Micha. Ton of the Velio Shabbat Ba'anoichi. Shevet Dan was going against the Anoichi Hashem Alikecha, the oneness of Hashem. V'hinei avodah zarah de Pesel Micha lo'hoisa avodah zarah pshuta. Nicht as a pashat avodah zarah. You'll see it avodah zarah, people worshiping some kind of a cow. You laugh at them. Shreim kol Yisrael over avodah zarah zu derech yamsuf shenikra b'nes. This Pesel Micha came with them. They brought it out of Mitzrayim and they went through the Kriyas Yam Suf. Kadosh Baruch Hu was doing this amazing nest, and they were holding up, not hiding, but holding up the Pesel Micha through Kriyas Yam Suf. This is like so not Jewish, no? Like what's going on? Not Pashut, says Rav Dessler. V'amdu ima lifnei Har Sinai. They stood it up, made a little prop of the Pesel Micha before Har Sinai. Shezachu sham l'gilui shchina panim b'panim. Hashem is saying, and we're hearing it, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Tzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, and we're standing there with the Pesel Micha. Not only that, when Moshe Rabbeinu didn't come down, what did we do? We built an Egel Azav. This was an enlarged, enhanced business class version of Pesel Micha. That's what it was. We have to go further with the Pesel Micha. In Chazal, he brings here that in Shiloh, when we brought Karbonos before the Beis Hamikdash, Anan Hamarocha Mishiloi Yisarevim Anan Karbonos Pesel Micha. That the smoke from the Karbonos to Hashem and the smoke of the Karbonos to Pesel Micha Lahavdil, the smoke mixed. And I looked up this Yalkut Shoftim, some Nayin Beis. He doesn't bring it the whole thing. It says there that the two smokes mixed, and the Malachi Ashoresh said, "Hold on, let's sort this out over here in Shemayim. The smoke is coming. There's a smoke of Avodah Zarah. There's a smoke of Kedusha. Let's split up the smoke." And HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushed the Malachim away. That's what it says in the Medrash. So it's a Pella Atzuma. It says Rav Dessler, his lashon, "Ein safek shedvarim b'gad." Episodah. And he goes on to explain, but I just want to say in 2-3 short words, that Klal Yisrael always needed, humans always need something Gashmias to hold on to. This is what happens when all these esoteric, ethereal, Spherois, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoid, when you side, Zu Yosef Hayab in Mitzrayim, Malcolm Sakana. The Sakana Mitzrayim, Malay Trafim, Malay Avodah Zarah. Yosef Hayab in Mitzrayim, but that's where Yesai touches Malchus, and that's where our Nisayan is. Are we going to stick with Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim and understand the Beis Hamikdash that this is a Mikdash LaHashem? Or are we going to say, B'ba'at ba'anoichi, Koloshin Chazal, which was what Shevet Dun did, and say, look, the Shekhinah is coming into this world, so this is holy, this is holy, this is holy. Everything is holy, hence you have Avodah Zarah. Now, the Anshe Knesset Gdolah came along and they were Avatul Avodah Zarah, otherwise we would still be hanging out with the Pesel Micha, I'm sure of it. But somehow, even in spite of the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah davening to get rid of the Avodah Zarah, somehow we managed, to work a little bit in the world of Gashmias. There's this human need, I think, that we need to resist, and this is why the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem says this is not Malchus. Malchus is Shochahi, yeah, Malchus Shochahi, has to be complete Malchus of Hashem. So, we do things to make Yiddishkeit a little bit more touchable, feelable. I'm not knocking anybody's last thing I want to do on Tisha B'Av, just a little bit. But like I'm saying, like people go for people like skulas. People like to see their the ayin horrors that are given to them melted in lead in front of their eyes. They like to see people have these hubris where they can, if you go to the Negev, there's a guy who literally makes flowers stand up. I don't know. To me, it sounds like Rashi on Oiv and Yudayni, all these things. I don't know. I once asked Rabbi Yaacov Haber, what are all these things? He said, I don't know. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what they're doing there. It's not that they don't work. They probably do work. If they didn't work, so then there wouldn't be a problem at all. But what all of these things are fulfilling the needs of human beings to grab onto something physical and the Gashmius world that we can see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, in my opinion, V'kach kibalti miraboisai, okay, you're not ready for a Beis Hamikdash yet. You're going to abuse the Beis Hamikdash. That's what can happen. Even the mitzvahs that we do, people are looking for leaders that are not leaders. They're looking for leaders that are like something else, something min hashamayim. This is new. It's not like I'm an old-time Litvakers over here. That's not what I am before. But literally attributing godly powers to people. This is the need. This is a human need to give some gashmius to the ruchnius. This was why, says the Rambam, people worshipped Avodah Zarah to begin with. So we all worship Avodah Zarah. But you have to be careful, I think, we have to be careful not to fall into the trap of gashmius and be boed ba'anoichi. When we're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a pelodic thing. Since I'm a little child, I'm worried about this thing. On the one hand, like anything you can imagine of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is wrong, automatically. If you imagine HaKadosh Baruch Hu with a long white beard, it's wrong. If some shaita when you were in second or third grade told you like this is what God looked like, and it's stuck in our mind, get rid of it. That's what we're told. Anything you imagine. Okay, so what are you left with? A vacuum. So don't imagine. Then we say Shivisi Hashem l'negdi sami. So we're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shivisi Hashem l'negdi sami. This is not easy. How do you daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So some people have a trick. Maybe they think the voice is Yud Kei Vav Kei. I don't even know if that's right. You can't think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there's something in the Jewish neshama which enables us, gives us the ability, the talent to be able to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, picture HaKadosh Baruch Hu with no picture at all. But it's very, very difficult not to fall into the trap of what happens when your sight hits Malchus. So I think it comes up sometimes with Daiva, comes up with Chumras, it comes up with, there's all kinds of Avodah Zarahs, Avodah Zarah that we can do. And this was the problem. The problem is that people were, and this we say in the Kinos, people were more involved in the nissim of the Asar Nissim Shahaya B'Mikdash than they were with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I was going to say in a couple of minutes, we say L'cha Hashem Atzdaka. We're saying Tziduk Adin. So it says here, V'lanu boishes hapanim b'tzela micha. This is part of the Tziduk Adin. A lot of what happened is our fault. This is L'cha Hashem Atzdaka. This is the Tziduk Adin. V'lanu boishes hapanim. Why? B'tzela micha kivay anachnu poishim. This is not a history lesson. Kivay is a lashon hoiver. It's a present that the Tziduk Hadin meeting. I think it's so important. If you want to understand what is all this, what's going on over here, what's all this suffering about, what's all this anti-Semitism about, what are all these things about? Not that I or anybody else can explain such a thing, but what we do understand that is the Tziduk Hadin is that because Lanu Boishes upon him, because we're always sticking with this Pesel Micha. Shabai, ad hayoim hazeh, we're grabbing onto a gashmius. And this is a danger with the Beis HaMikdash. So I think what we need to understand is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in the world for is Malchus Hashem. And Malchus Hashem is never being boyed ba'anoichi be'einoid movadai. And if we could be mispointed, the Brisker Rav said, everybody knows the story, and with this I'll end and start the Kinos, but the Brisker Rav was traveling through Europe, running away from the Nazis. And he was with his son, Rabbi Berel, or David, or Paul, was with his sons. They were young. And they were traveling one thing to another, and they were getting through. Brisker Rav told his sons that the whole time, but especially when we come to a machsum on the way, he needs everybody to be thinking, Ein oid novadai. just be misponing, ein od novado, and miracles will happen. If we're not bought ba'anochi, we don't try to smile charmingly, we don't try to pay anybody off, we just as we go from border to border and machsom to machsom, everybody has to just think, ein od novado, and we'll get through this. And they did. They got through machsom after machsom until they got stuck. And they got stuck, and they were almost arrested. And the whole story that they tell in Brisk, they were almost arrested, and they were finally let go. They went through a lot of yisurim and a lot of panic, and they almost were killed at that time. And the Brisk Rav turned around, Kehilla in the car, to his sons, and he said to them, somebody was not thinking Ein Novado. Somebody was not thinking Ein Novado. When there's no Ein Novado, there's a problem of chorban. That's when the chorban can set in. When there's a pesel micha, when you start to feel when you have tzion, which is midas hayesoid without malchus, so then not only is it a dangerous place, but it's a place where the Beis Hamikdash, the Shechina can't be shayra, because we're bayit ba'anaychi. So there were always gedolim that said Einoin Movada. There was always that brisker Rav in the front seat who said Einoin Movada, we'll do it, we'll create schools, we'll create yeshivas, we'll write mikvahs, we'll do whatever we need to do. We'll do it. And to the extent that they did it, we could not say Tachman because we keep on going and going. The Kinos of the morning start with Kinav. And these first Kinos, as you know, were written by Rabbi Eliezer HaKaler, who some say was a Tana, some say was one of the Balei Tosfos. Whoever he was holy and he was good. And he starts off the Kinos. I'm just going to explain a little bit and then we'll say it together. He starts off the Kinos, Shavas, Suri Meni Shimuni Oichrad. Shavas, the word Shavas means not just he stopped, but it means suddenly, Shavas, like a Shvita, everything stopped. It means that the Chorban Beis Hamikdash didn't come gradually. It wasn't something that came gradually. It was something that came as a surprise. Shavas. One day there was no Chorban. The next day there was a Chorban. One day there was a Beis Hamikdash. One day there wasn't a Beis Hamikdash. Now, anybody who knows anything about history knows this wasn't true. Yirmiyahu himself, who says Shavas, was warning people of the Beis Hamikdash for years. But then it says in Yirmiyahu that when he came from Anoises, he came to Yerushalayim, he saw the Chorban Beis Hamikdash, he was shocked. He himself was the prophet of doom. I said before, the Holocaust, people think that, Imach Shemoy v'Zichra Hitler, like he flew down or flew up from hell, destroyed 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million people, and then back down to your, there was a whole, this didn't come in a vacuum, this wasn't come out of nowhere. Before Hitler, there was Nietzsche, who was the philosopher who Hitler grabbed on, and Nietzsche had a Kaballah. These were a bunch of philosophers for generations that sat around in coffee shops. They're sitting in the local Starbucks of Europe, and they were philosophizing nicely with a pipe and a cigar as to how good the world would be without Jews. They were philosophizing about the Aryan race, and they were philosophizing about how something like Darwinism, like the survival of the fittest. Some people have to go, and some people could stay. And Hitler was an animal. He took it and he brought it Lamaisa. I'm not giving him any points here. I'm only saying that it didn't come in a vacuum. It didn't come from nowhere, and it also didn't go away. But at the time, you see, people didn't leave their homes. Isn't that a Pella? My own uncles and aunts. Why didn't you leave? You could have left. I don't know if they could have left, but why didn't they leave? I don't know, everyone has a different theory about it. But there was a bechina of shavas. So shavas, let's call it denial. So denial means that we didn't focus completely that there's actually going to be a Churban Bayis Rishon or a Churban Bayis Sheni or pogroms or Holocaust. We didn't see the writing on the wall, but it did come. The more positive way to say it is not that we were in denial, but we were in hope. We always had hope. We had hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help us and save us, and so often He did. Who knows what might have been if He didn't? And we are here to tell the story. But there is a Metzias, which is not necessary to explain, of Shavas, of this sudden destruction that takes place, that in the human mind, it's just Shavas. It's just something completely sudden, completely non-understandable. And this is what he says. And what was the Shavas? Now look at these words with me, please. Shavas surim anishimuni oichrai sechiu ma'ois hasimuni badri chaver. All of a sudden, we were vermin. All of a sudden, we were hated. What happened? Sakoisa mishkan mischois tevirai. All of a sudden, there was a sukkah. Sukkah means something that covers, like schach, right? There was a covering, a separation between us and the Shemayim. Sakoisa mishkan mischois tevirai. Beit Hamikdash was here. The Kruvim were here, but there was a blockage. And the blockage, like an iron curtain, the Gemara calls this mechitza shel barzel. Mechitza shel barzel, miyom shechar Beit Hamikdash, there's a mechitza shel barzel beineinu lebein avinu shebashamayim. Our tefillos couldn't go further. The only thing is that this sakoisa comes from the pasuk in Eicha that we read last night. Actually, I read last night. Sakoisa ba'anon l'cha me'avor tefillah. Means that wasn't really a mechitza shel barzel, which sounds something very hard to penetrate. It was actually a cloud. That's what it says here. That's made. He's going after the pasuk. Sakoisa ba'anon l'cha me'avor tefillah. Talking about the anon. So what was actually going on was that there was a cloud that was blocking our tefillos. It's reminiscent of the Chazal tell us that when Rabbi Akiva, just put this into very real terms. Rabbi Akiva was arrested by the Romans, and he was being tried, death penalty, death by torture penalty, and he was in Caesarea with the Romans courts, all dressed up, and Kehillah giving Rabbi Akiva a trial, and Rabbi Akiva is sitting there in Caesarea. You can go to the place. Rabbi Akiva was sitting there. They allowed him one attendant, Yoshua Agarsi, who was with him, Talmud, and listening to the back and forth. Now, this was a kangaroo court, because the definition of a kangaroo court is when you know the verdict before you even start. They knew they're going to kill Rabbi Akiva, but Romans are Romans, and they needed to make a trial out of it. So they made a trial. Yoshua Garsi says to Rabbi Akiva, says Chazal, that this is totally ridiculous. What should we do here? What should we be doing while we're sitting in court? It was an outdoor court, and the Romans are sentencing you to death. What should we be doing? So Rabbi Akiva said, say Tillim. Right? That's the right thing to do, Daven. So Rabbi Akiva and Yoshua Garsi are saying Tillim. It didn't seem, according to Chazal, that Rabbi Akiva was particularly upset or worried or davening. And Chazal say that a cloud came and engulfed them, encompassed them, enveloped them. They were in this cloud. Don't know what it means. That's what it says. It says there was a cloud that came around Rabbi Akiva and Yoshua Garsi. Now, if you were sitting there, how would you define this cloud? How would you understand the cloud? What would you say? What do you say?
Their vantage point?
Yeah.
They think they were Masliach.
Baruch Hashem, Masliach. The cloud, like, Anonei HaKavod, so protecting us from Amalek. No? Protecting us from Esav. Tefillos are going up. Protected, not getting involved in Tumah. Amar Yoshua Garsi Rabbi Akiva Kimadumali. It seems to me that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is blocking your tefillos. Doimani Shua Yorad Onon Vihikiv Elakadesh Tishma Tfilas Shel Rabbi. That's what he said. Ahu Dechsiv Sakoisa Ba'anon Lecha Me'avor Tfilah. That this Onon is blocking your tefillah. Why in the world? But that's where the Rabbi Elazar HaKaler gets the idea that what was blocking us, our tefillos, what was made with the Beis HaMikdash stopped working. It stopped working. That's why there could be a Chorban Beis HaMikdash while there's a Beis HaMikdash, because it stopped working. It only works if there's klita. It only works if the tefillos and the karbonos go straight up to the Shamayim. But it was blocked by a cloud. So the kasha is, why was it blocked by a cloud? Why not, like Chazal, understand that it should be blocked by a mechitza shel barzel? A cloud is vapor. Cloud is nothing. Today, you get on a plane, fly through the clouds. You don't even feel a bump. What is the why a cloud? Why was Rabbi Akiva blocked? Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't want his tefillah to be matzliach, Kinirah. But why a cloud? Should have been blocked by barzel. So I think that I say this every year, but I say it differently every year because I'm getting older. A cloud is the symbol of lack of clarity. When you're cloudy, you don't see things clearly. When there's two things. There's ha'aras panim, when the Shekhinah is coming to us, and there's hester panim, when it's being hidden. When there's ha'aras panim, everything's clear, everything's good, miracles happen, there's kriyas yamsu. When there's hester panim, everything's good, but nothing is clear. We don't get it. We don't see it. Like why is this good again? Why is this okay? Why is the Holocaust okay? Why is it good when 3 innocent children get kidnapped and killed? Why is it good somehow when Har-Nof gets tzaddikim get massacred in front of our nose, in front of our eyes? Like it's we can trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but there's a cloud here, and the cloud is hanging very, very low, and it's very, very unclear. So the cloud comes about suddenly, and the cloud, I think, there's two sides to the cloud. How could it be the same cloud which is considered Hester Panim is the cloud which was on Har Sinai, that Moshe Rabbeinu went into this cloud, and that was the Shekhinah. And how could it be the cloud that was protecting us, the Ananei HaKavod, was protecting us and cleaning our clothes and helping us? How could it be the same cloud? The answer is it's the same cloud, but a cloud is, on the one hand, we're not used to it. Suddenly, like, we don't see the miracles, we don't see the Yeshuas Hashem, but Mitzat Sheni, what it does to us, what it did to Rabbi Akiva, Shua Garsi means that we're going to have to struggle through this tefillah. We're going to have to struggle through this Havana. Klal Yisrael is going to have to work through the Asar Arugei Malchus, and they have to understand that when we do Averos, or when we're playing with the Pesel Micha, I think, what's going to happen is there's going to be Hester Panim. So Hester Panim cuts off the Sarusa de la Eila and brings in some more Sarusa de la Sata. It's more Avodah on our part. Avodah on our part, that's Malchus. That is the Beis HaMikdash. There is nothing else, the Beis HaMikdash, except for Avodah on our part. So the Sakoisa has a good side and a bad side to it. The negative side is, it would be so good to be able to just see, like the 6-day war, like boom, 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 knock them out of the sky. But then it's not so pashut. It's not so pashut. And there's a Sakoisa. So Sakoisa v'huvlo giborai. When this sukkah, when this cloud, when this Hester Panim came about, says the Kina here, Safku chafu modai hevarai. All the goyim started to applaud. We were matzliach. Safku chafu modai hevarai ksila kol hadir. They were wrong, because it wasn't a mechitza shel barzel, really. It was a cloud. And we worked through this cloud, and we're still not saying tachton. We're still here until today. But it was so difficult and it was so hard that the Goyim thought that they were Matzliach. Just want to point to you before we say the Kina, just a couple of the paragraphs, understand what you can. But there's a reference here, a couple of paragraphs down, to Lama Ruach HaPeinu L'Tevach Shamaru. This is interesting, it's going to become important as we go further. Ruach HaPeinu, who's Ruach HaPeinu? L'Tevach Shamaru, so where was Ruach HaPeinu killed? So say Chazal, Zu Yoshiyahu HaMelech, which we're going to see in a couple of Kinos down. Zu Yoshiyahu HaMelech, which was called Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem. And at that time, Klal Yisrael made a comeback, because it was after, we're going to talk about it in a minute, but it was after Menashe the Rasha. There was a Bal Tshuva movement, there was Chadarim, there was learning, there was a comeback, and in that comeback, there was a Chorban based on Mikdash. Right in the middle of Yoshiyahu, 22 years later, Chorban based on Mikdash. So this Yirmiyahu called him Ruach HaPeinu. He said this man could have been Mashiach. But then we asked, Lama Ruach HaPeinu L'Tevach Shamaru, we had so much hope, and our hope went down. But lastly, I want to just mention something that Chazal, we say, Kitam Chakta B'Cheso Ifanecha. Do you see that? A few paragraphs further. We could talk about every paragraph, but there's talking too much already. Kitam Chakta B'Cheso Ifanecha. And this is really sums up what we're talking about here. Because Tam Chakta B'Cheso Ifanecha refers to Tam. Who is the Tam? Yaakov Avinu. What's the Cheso Ifanecha? The Kisei HaKavod. It's a Kisei HaKavod. Kisei HaKavod, I presume, is not a chair, but the Kisei HaKavod is the Kaballah, the place where the Bria begins. Kisei HaKavod. Shayo says that we say it on Shabbos for Chodesh. Hashamayim Kisei Va'aretz Hadar Maglo Yezavayis Asher Tivnu Li is the Makrim V'Chosir. That's the Nusach. That Hashem sits on the Kisei HaKavod, Kaviyachol, and his feet is the Hadoim Raglai, is his footstool. And then Yeshayahu Samach Vav says, Eza Bayis Hasher Tivnu Li Eza Makoy Menuchasi. Where's my house? Where is the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Yaakov Avinu went to sleep. Vayachlim Chaloim. He had a dream. Malachi Hashem, he saw a Sulam, and then the Malachi Hashem were Olam V'Yardim Bay. In Chazal, he saw Bavel go up and go down. He saw Mitzrayim go up and go down. He saw Rome go up and go down. He saw the whole thing. It was all there to begin with. He saw the whole thing in his dream. Olam V'Yardim Bay. Malachi Elokim Olam V'Yardim Bay. The rise and fall. And then Yaakov Avinu looked closer, and he saw the Kisei HaKavod in his dream. Chazal explained this in Vayetze. He saw the Kisei HaKavod in his dream, and he saw the Demusay Shel Avram Avinu. He saw his grandfather's Demus on the Kisei HaKavod carved in. Okay, that's comfortable to see your grandfather carved into the Etzem Bria of the world. The Bria is happening through the Kisei HaKavod. Hein Hein Mamerkava. So he came closer, he was comfortable, say Chazal, and he saw that his father Yitzchak's Tamus was Chatkuk al Kisei HaKavod. Whatever it means, he saw in his dream. It was a dream, prophecy. He saw Avram, he saw Yitzchak. And he was Niskarev to the Kisei, and what does he see? He sees his own Demus. Powerful to see your own Demus on the Kisei HaKavod. He wakes up and he says, whoa, but this is Manoira Hamokim Mazu. Ein Zakim Beis Elikim. Zashar Shamayim. The Makom of the Beis HaMikdash, Mamish. Or Artis, Hatoim Raglai. This is the footstool of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'anoichi, that I'm on the Kisei HaKavod, lo yodati. This much I didn't know. I didn't know, like we don't know, how crucial we are and how fundamental we are to the Shekhinah and the Malchus Hashem coming and permeating this world. V'anoichi lo yadati, we don't know our own koyach. This is what Yaakov Avinu said. I see Abraham, Yitzchak, the Goyim, Tzadikim, Rabbi Kiveger, the Gra, Ram Rottenberg, Balitoisus, I see everything. V'anoichi lo yadati. So here we say, Hitam chavta b'cheis afanecha, that we have to understand our own obligation, our own responsibility, and our own power by understanding that Yaakov, which represented Klal Yisrael, the Shvatim, are chakuk al kisei hakavod. By the way, in the Medrash it says that then he saw the rest of the Shvatim, also even done the Yarud Shvatim. So we're the ones to build the Beit Shemesh. Okay, let's say together. Shavas Explain briefly, this is a Kino which talks about the Korban Bais Sheni. How do I know? Because it says, Doimim are the Romans, and the Romans caused the Korban Bais Sheni. But it's interesting that we skip to the Romans, but we go back, that Bris Ben Absarim goes back to the time of Avram Avinu, and there Avram Avinu foresaw Yitzchak, Yaakov, he foresaw Esav, and Esav was Edom. So it's really, when we talked about the Korban Bais Sheni, the Bais Sheni which was necroed by the Romans, by the Edom, so we're talking about Esav, and what we're doing is we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Eicha, how could you do this? You made a bris with us, you made a bris Ben Absarim with us, this is our time. And yet, you said we're not going to have a problem with Esav. And here we are, Esav is destroying the Beis HaMikdash. And that's this whole Kinos Adad Chug Shamayim is a very deep, really, Kina, which speaks about how when there's Hester Ponim and when there's Chorban, it's a cosmic catastrophe. It's not just what's happening on this earth. It's like Waka Halavana, that there's actually, the whole Bria doesn't work. It's Mustafa that the whole Bria doesn't work, because the whole Bria is here for Malchus Hashem. So if there's no Malchus Hashem, if we're not doing the Malchus Hashem, it's going to affect the air, it's going to affect the stars, it's going to affect the planets, and who knows what else. That's the Adad Chud Shamayim. It's the whole, so we need to think big here. We need to think about the whole universe in terms of the catastrophe that took place. If you could help me with this, I was reading through Rav Soloveitchik's commentary on this Kina. He says something, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around here. He says as follows, I'm going to read it to you. When Adam was first created, Hashem's intention was Iker Shechina b'tachtonim. The essence of the Shechina was to be located in the human world below. As we said, Hashem and man would have interacted frequently. God would have been immediately accessible to man. But Adam sinned, and Shechina nistalka l'mroimim. The Shechina left and joined the transcendent infinity. God had wanted to live in harmony with man, but man's sin caused his departure. Adam lacked the courage to repent and say to Hashem, please do not leave me alone. Instead, he defended his actions. He said to Hashem, it's not my fault, it's your fault. You were the marriage broker. Had I not married her, I would not have eaten from the tree of knowledge. He goes on to talk about here that Hashem's original plan was that in fact there shouldn't be a Beit Shemesh. There should just be a world. Haaretz hadoim ragulei. And he says that even I would read you this whole beautiful lesson, but there's no time. Even now, when we're davening for the Beis HaMikdash, we're not davening that there should only be a Beis HaMikdash. We're davening for the original plan. The original plan is no Beis HaMikdash. With me on this? But Adam Arishon, Gan Eden, the world as we knew it at that time, was the Beis HaMikdash. The Malchus Hashem was here in the world. And then Nistalka Shechina, because Adam Arishon did the Chet. So what are we davening for? That the Shechina should return to the world. The Shechina returning to the world is not about the Beis HaMikdash per se. We're not just davening for the Beis HaMikdash. We're davening, he says, for that original situation before the Tikkun. And the Ramchal says this clearly in the beginning of Derech Hashem. The Tikkun of being Misakin, the Chet of Adam Arishon. So then it's not about a Beis HaMikdash. But Adam Arishon wasn't about to build a Beis HaMikdash in Gan Eden. That was the Beis HaMikdash. So it means to say that it's a Chiddush. I think it's a Chiddush Nifla. The whole thing is not davening for the Beis HaMikdash. It's davening for the Shechina. So what are we davening for the Beis HaMikdash for? We're davening for the Beit Shemesh because that's the Makam Avodah. That's the place where we bring Karbanos. That's where the mitzvah of worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. There's certain things you can't do outside the Beit Shemesh. This brings maybe an achdus to Klal Yisrael, that we have Mishkan Echad, Mizbeach Echad, Kohen Echad, etc. Makom Echad. Can't have Isser Abomais. But in terms of what we're davening for, it's not just the Beis HaMikdash, that's just the temple. What we're really davening for is something that's more biyadenu to do. What Mashiach is really going to do is create a malchus out of the whole world. That everything that we do, my house, your house, our marriages, our children, our schools, our shuls, they all become Beis HaMikdash. See, I was thinking that, when Yechezkel walked out of Yerushalayim with the people, and he spoke to them about the Mikdash Ma'at, it sounds like it was almost like a Nechama, okay, it's like a Nechama, you build shuls, don't worry. What do you mean? We're in Golos, we left Yerushalayim, we lost the Beis HaMikdash. When people talking about shuls, Mikdash Ma'at, who said there's such a thing as a Mikdash Ma'at? The answer is that what Yechezkel was saying was something, a Nevuah L'Doros, because what he was saying was that Be'etzem, we lost the Beis HaMikdash, and we even lost Eretz Yisrael, but we can recreate it in our lives. That's what he was saying. We can change the whole cosmic atmosphere just by what we do at home. If there's Ava at home, just what we do in a community, if we could have Ava between each other, we could have the Shekhinah, changes the cosmic world. Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, that it's not just like if I do a chesed with you, I'm doing a chesed with you, you're doing a chesed with me. You're changing the whole thing, from Jupiter, Mars, everything. You're changing everything. The whole atmosphere has changed. It's like I always say, it's like the rain cycle. You evaporate good, down comes good. We create an environment. The whole Nefesh HaChaim is written about this point. This is the point of the Nefesh HaChaim. What we send up, that's what comes down. If we can, how do we have the Shekhinah? By creating the Shekhinah. And when we create the Shekhinah, everything's different. If we pollute the air, if we do averos, if we hurt each other. Somebody told me that they went to Rheinland Shlita, and they said they're having so many sorrows in their life. There's so many things that are all of a sudden going wrong in their life the last couple of years. Kids got sick, and the Parnasa fell apart, and the Mela Shalom Bayis fell apart. And we went to Rav Steiner and said, the whole world's falling apart. Like, what's going on? I was Bodek, I don't see them doing anything. Like, I didn't start being Mahal Shabbos or anything. I was like, what's going on? So Rav Steinman told her, this is what she told me. Rav Steinman told her that these things happen when people hurt the people that are closest to them, the people that they love. He says, I'm telling you, be bodek, you'll see you're doing something to hurt the people that are closest to you, the people that you love. We think about hurting, we think, well, maybe we're throwing too many herbs and too many bombs in Gaza or something. It's our wives, it's our husbands, it's our children. How many times do we hurt our children? Say something, It's how many times do we ever ask mechila of our children? People you daven with every day, like somehow or another, feel comfortable when we hurt somebody. So Rav Steinman said those are the things that bring Yisurim. So it doesn't need my lumdus, what Adar says, but I'm saying my lumdus. The lumdus is that when you hurt somebody, you just evaporated pollution into the Bria. You took the Mishkan Hashem, which is our homes, which is our dining room table, which is our living room, which is our relationships with our children, which is our chadarim. If a Rebbe hurts a child, says something which is going to stick with that child. It's such an achrayus. If anybody hears a Rebbe, such an achrayus. I never went into it because it's just too much responsibility for me. Because you say one thing to a child, and it comes out. I hear it 30 years later, 25 years later. I hear it's such an achrayus. I'm an authority figure. What happens is that you're polluting the environment, but it's not just that. It goes up to the Shamayim, and then it comes down. It's acid rain. It's like the rain cycle, but it's acid rain coming down, and we lose the Shekhinah. So we have to make the Shekhinah in our homes. We have to make the Shekhinah in our relationships. It's the little things, and if we can do that, we can affect the big things. We can affect it's a whole cosmic effect that can be happening here. So this is the kavanah of Adat Chut Shemayim. Adat Chut Shemayim. Okay, I'd like to turn a few pages to Kina Yud Aleph 11, also written by Rabbeinu Eliezer HaKalir, but it's actually a Kina that Yirmiyahu said on Yoshiyahu HaMelech. We just spoke about Yoshiyahu HaMelech, and this is a Kina. Yoshiyahu was a contemporary of Yirmiyahu, and Yirmiyahu said a Kina. I want to point out, Meirosh, that something that I may have said mistakenly. It's not a hesped of Yirmiyahu on Yoshiyahu, because a hesped's a hesped. What's a Kina? Somebody want to give me a translation? I'm saying Kinos, yeah?
Crafts.
Huh? Crafts, that's a very good one. Crafts. So this was like people say a dirge, some lamentation, Hagufakasha. I learned all these English words when I was a kid, and I never knew what any of them meant. So we got to do tshuva for that. I didn't know what phylacteries were, and I didn't know what lamentations were, and I didn't know what maybe ecclesiastics are. I didn't know any of this. But so let's reteach it in language that we can understand better. Kina, Jonas has a kvetch. This was not Yirmiyahu saying a hesped on Yoshiyahu. This was giving a moan, a very deep moan, over what happened with Yoshiyahu HaMelech. Ma'aseh Shahaya Nachaya, stories in Malachim Beis, Parachav Hey. We had a terrible melech from the Malchei Beis David, Menashe. Menashe was a grandson of Yeshayahu Hanavi. It says, "Vayahargu es Yerushalayim, es Yerushalayim Pel Peh." That he killed Chachamim in Yerushalayim Pel Peh. Menashe. He was a murderer, horrible person. And one of the people he killed, the Gemara Darshan's Peh, was the Navi Yeshayahu. He killed his grandfather, Yeshayahu, Peh Shemedaber Mashkin. Peh that set out the words of the Shema. Unbelievable Russia. And besides for killing people, those who he left alive, what did he kill them for? First of all, he killed all Talmidei Chacham. And he killed anybody who didn't worship Avodah Zarah. And this is a Melech Yisrael. We're not talking about, like something from the outside. Like our own Melech, here in Eretz Yisrael, here in Beit Shemesh, if you didn't worship Avodah Zarah, your death penalty, you were killed. Why? This was the Pesel Micha thing. This was
It's just like Yeshayahu, and that's when they killed Yeshayahu, was preaching against Avodah Zarah. And it says there in Yeshayahu that he told the women, speak with the Avodah Zarah already. Chaim brings this, like, get rid of your idols. And they said to Yeshayahu, no, we're not getting rid of our idols. Read the Psukim Yeshayahu. We're not getting rid of our idols. These idols, last time we listened to you when we got rid of the idols, meaning Pesel Micha, as I'll say, last time we listened to you, it stopped raining, and the apple trees didn't grow, and we didn't have any food, and we didn't even have milk in our breasts. We're not getting rid of the idols. You're not going to trick us again. We're not friar in here. We need this Pesel Micha. Understand how powerful Yesh Dvarim B'Gav, since we're just like Yesh Dvarim B'Gav. It's not so passionate. Menashe, first of all, understood that Klal Yisrael, full of Talmidei Chachamim, is not going to help anybody. Klal Yisrael, we need, they said, like at the beginning of the early secular Zionists, we need a more muscular Judaism. Like this image of a Jew, like leaning over a Gemara, skinny Jew, leaning over a Stender in a Gemara, trying to get through another daf, staying up all night. We don't need that image. We need a guy with a gun. I'm not against the guns, by the way. We need that too. But like this was the image of Klal Yisrael, which Menashe was trying to do away with. We need a stronger, more muscular, and Avodah Zarah was more samzach to him. Because Avodah Zarah, people would kill their kids up for Avodah Zarah. Like if you look back at the history of Avodah Zarah, it made you tough. Avodah Zarah made you tough. What was the avodah of the Baal? You defecated on the Baal. That was the avodah of it. Why? Because anything that was sacrilege, anything which lets me do anything, no matter how much chutzpah I have, that's what's going to make me strong. That's what's going to make me powerful. That's how I'm going to win the wars against our enemies that are surrounding us. That was Menashe. I'm not being matzdik Menashe, but when the Gemara says that when Rav Ashi started to talk against Menashe, Menashe came to him in a dream and he said, if you would be there, you'd be the biggest oivet of him. Rav Ashi, Chasimus Hatam, unbelievable. People were Menashe, Yesh Dvarim B'Gav. It's not so passionate. But anyways, he didn't succeed in killing Klal Yisrael. He didn't succeed in killing all the Chachamim. And not only that, but typical of Klal Yisrael, and this is why we don't say Tachlim today, typical of Klal Yisrael, a mess happened, and his own grandson becomes a Baal Shuvah. This was like, can't get worse than this, right? So as the joke goes, Menashe went around checking his mezuzahs. Where did I go wrong? My grandson becomes a Baal Shuvah. But he became a Baal Shuvah, and the whole story there in Tanakh that he found, they were doing shiputzim in the Beit Hamikdash. This whole time, while they're worshiping Avodah Zarah, they had the Beit Hamikdash, and they were bringing korbanos. And not only that, they brought the pesel, which I believe is the pesel micha, according to Chazal, into the Beit Hamikdash. So it was just the way they did it. That's the way we do it here. That's our minhag. Pesel micha gives one thing, korbanos, and that's the way we do it here. So Yoshio found in the Torah that you're not supposed to do that. Chiddush Nifla. You're not supposed to do that. It was very deep, what he found. What he found was that's Ba'at Ba'anoichi. Yes, it's the minhag, but you know what? Not everything that's the minhag should we continue doing, because we're still having tzaros, right? So maybe we have to look at the minhagim and see if there are pesel micha here. So Yoshio goes ahead and he legislates against the pesel micha. And he says, no more Avodah Zarah. And things start to shine a little bit again in Klal Yisrael. We got rid of the murder and the godless, seemingly godless Menashe HaMelech. Even when he died, he said, I'll do tshuva. But only after he tried every Avodah Zarah. He tried every Avodah Zarah. Maybe this will heal me. Maybe this will heal me. He was like in a lot of pain. He certainly but it didn't work. Somebody said to him, why don't you try doing tshuva? Maybe that'll work. He said, I'll do it on the tonight that it works. If it doesn't work, I give it up also. So, of course, tshuva on a tonight is not tshuva. But Yoshio was a tzaddik, about tshuva, even bigger than a tzaddik. Ein tzaddikim gevurim yicholim lamed sham. And he legislated against Avodah Zarah, and he made an educational system in Klal Yisrael. And then, what happened, according to the story of Malachim, is that there was a war, nothing to do with us, as usual. There was a war between Egypt below, two superpowers, and Babel above. So this was like America, Russia, right? These were the two superpowers of the world, Egypt and Russia. Not Russia, Babel. Okay, how do you attack Babel? How does Babel attack? They didn't have like ballistic missiles. How do they attack each other? So what's in between Babel and Mitzrayim? Beit Shemesh, right? Eretz Yisrael. So Eretz Yisrael historically is called the land bridge. It was either you go through the water, which was not Gishmak, or you go through, it's hard to attack through the water, or you go through the desert, not Gishmak, or you go through beautiful Eretz Yisrael. And that's how you attack. So comes Paro Nechai, the Paro of Mitzrayim, and he says to Yoshiyahu that this is really none of your business and you don't have to get involved. But how do you, we need to attack Bavel, and can we please, we just want to travel through your land with our artillery and attack Bavel. Yoshiyahu says, no. Says in the Torah, that this is exactly what you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to have a sword or battle go through our land. He said no. Yirmiyahu hears, say no to Egypt. Interesting, right? Yirmiyahu hears about the psak of the Melech Yoshiyahu, that he says no, and he says, Yoshiyahu, you're making a mistake. He says, let them go through. We're going to have a war here. We don't have that much Shechina yet, where you can rely completely on it, and I'm a Navi, and I'm telling you, does not yet apply. Just like we don't kill people from Amalek, it doesn't apply anymore. It doesn't apply right now. Yoshiyahu says in the holiness. So he didn't listen to Yirmiyahu and Navi. Apparently they remained close friends, Yoshiyahu HaMelech and Yirmiyahu HaNavi. Yirmiyahu HaNavi said, Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem. Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem. And this is not a hesped, it's a kina. Because, at least in the Alpiderech HaTeva, what happened was that Paro said, okay, you don't want to let us through, we'll get through anyway. And he began to hate the government of Eretz Yisrael, the people of the Klal Yisrael, which was in Eretz Yisrael. And because he hated them, he killed Yoshiyahu HaMelech. He came, they took him and they put arrow after arrow after arrow through him, and they held him up to the tzibur to show that you don't go against us, the Egyptians. So Yirmiyahu was right, and Yoshiyahu was wrong. And because they were maspid him in that door, which was a chiddush, even though he lost the battle, so they were maspid him. The Oisiyos Aleph Beis, with the 22 letters of the Aleph Beis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu prolonged the final churban of the Bais Rishon 22 years. Oisiyos Aleph Beis, so it was 22 years after Yoshiyahu was killed by the Egyptians, that we have the churban Beis Hamikdash. Yoshiyahu already saw, before this happened, he saw that the churban was coming, and it says in the Tanakh, and the Rambam explains this Barichus, that what he did was he took the Kelim of the Beit Hamikdash, many of the Kelim of the Beit Hamikdash, the Aron Kodesh, and he built tunnels under. Shlomo HaMelech already built those tunnels when he built the Beit Hamikdash, because he already knew, Shlomo HaMelech, when he built the Beit Hamikdash, knew there's going to become a time that this is going to be destroyed. He didn't want the Aron Kodesh to be destroyed. He didn't want many of the menorah to be destroyed. He didn't want a lot of the Kelim to be destroyed. So he built tunnels with like an emergency exit in case all else fails. Yoshiyahu already was margish through the guidance of Yirmiyahu that there's going to be a churban. So he already hid 23 years before the churban. He already hid all the Kelim under there. That's where they are. They're crooked. We don't know how to get there. To these, most of us don't know how to get there. To these Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash. But still, he had this feeling that Leisaber Cherev Artzachem, you can't go against the Chumash. And then we have the Chorban. So here's the Shiloh, like, why didn't he listen to Yirmiyahu Hanavi? And Al Pidar Chatava, as I say, if he would have listened to Yirmiyahu Hanavi, maybe the Chorban wouldn't have happened so quickly. Yirmiyahu said, you're making a mistake. So why didn't he listen to him? So in case anybody's falling asleep here, I'm going to say something very provocative. And because there's a big difference between Yirmiyahu and Navi and Yoshiyahu. It was a tzaddik. It was about Shuvah. But there was a voice of Masorah here. And the voice of Masorah was the voice of Yirmiyahu. And the voice of the Baal Shuvah, which is not a negative voice, it's a very powerful voice in Klal Yisrael, I hear it daily, is, but that's not right. That's not what it says. You know, I once remember when I was a Rav in Buffalo, so I was selling the chametz for people there at Pesach. So there was a guy there, Baal Shuvah, and I said, you didn't sell your chametz, it's getting late. So he said, I don't sell my chametz, I don't sell my chametz. So I said, what do you mean you don't get rid of all your chametz? He says he doesn't like Mishigasim. He doesn't like Mishigasim. Okay, this wasn't offensive at all. This business of, my father, my grandfather go to the rabbi, somehow they sell the chametz. Like it was like to him it was a mishigas. So I said to them, my father and grandfather also sold their chametz, and it was a moment that I remember as a child going to the Rav selling chametz. Why are you calling it a mishigas? That's what they did for Dori Doros. Rabbi Yochanan Zakai sold his chametz to the martyrs. There's a voice of Masorah. And then there's a voice of, but this is what it says. And it's a very, I don't want to offend anybody. I wish I was about Shuvah. But I'm just saying we have to be careful because there's such a thing as Musar Yisroel. And not listening to Yirmiyahu brought on the Chorban. It says here, you'll read it to yourself in a second. Victor was who? Moshe Rabbeinu. Why doesn't it say David HaMelech? Or from Moshe until Yoshiyahu, there was nobody like them. Moshe Rabbeinu also like this, grew up in the Bais Avodah. He grew up in the Beit Shemesh, and was also strong. So Yoshiyahu, on the one hand, was compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. But so it says in the Navi is that he legislated Yoshiyahu against Avodah Zarah, but what they would do, it was they would hide the Avodah Zarah on the back of the door. So when the Yoshiyahu police would come to see if there's any Avodah Zarah in the house, they'd open these big, it wasn't a door like we have today, right? Big, thick door, with things. They opened the door, and behind the door, that's where they kept the TV set. Behind the door. So policemen come in, they don't see any Avodah Zarah, okay, kosher, but the Avodah Zarah was there. So what does it mean? It means that he legislated and ostensibly cleaned out Klal Yisrael, but he didn't clean out the deep hidden places in their house, and he didn't clean out the deep hidden places in their house. A lot. This is. I think to myself. I'm honest for myself. I'm not giving Musar here, but come on, after Adelos Lister, like how many people are guilty of this? That like we're Makabel Torah, we're Makabel Yerushalayim, we're Makabel Yiddishkeit, we're Makabel Das Torah. But when the car alone, like the radio's blasting to things which are mamish usher to listen to, like what's, it's there's certain things that we don't like to let go of. So if it's mutter, it's mutter, but if it's usher, it's usher. So like the Mishnah Berurah says that Shirei Agavim are usher. You're allowed to listen to music, but you're not allowed to listen to love songs. Anything about love, you're not allowed to listen to I'm just saying that somehow or another. Asher Kamalach Adelos Listor, somehow or another, like to hold on to certain things. And we don't let our kids see it because they get all mixed up. You want to know something? Our kids are smarter than we. They see it too. How come the radio was turned on to that station when Ahavi got into the car? Good kasha. It's all confusing. Everything gets mixed up. So, like, the thing with this is Kaballah Sol Malchus Shemayim is without the Pesel Micha. Kaballah Sol Malchus Shemayim is straight Ol Malchus Shemayim. Making a Malchus for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world is straight making a Malchus for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. There can't be anything there. So it's and how do you know if it's real? How do you know if you're doing the whole thing? I think there's only one answer. Yirmiyahu Hanavi. Aselu Charav. Here's Yirmiyahu is going against the Chumash. But I have a Musar, I have a Torah Shabbat Peh, I have a father and a grandfather and a great grandfather. Berel Wein once said, Allah b'Shalom. So we showed him a Mishnah Berurah. So I always was offended by this, but now I understand it. So we showed him a Mishnah Berurah. It says something different than he said. So he said, I don't need the Mishnah Berurah. He says, Chavakata, Zeta, Alter Zeta. He says, well, Mishnah Berurah is for people that don't have that. Okay, Mishnah Berurah is a Mishnah Berurah. I don't budge from the Mishnah Berurah. But the fact of the matter is that there's the voice of Messiah, the voice of what's right, what's wrong. It's very, very deep in Klal Yisrael, and that's what we have to understand. To two things: be makabel l'das Torah, say l'charav, find it someplace, whether it's in a sefer, whether it's in a person. Find someplace. You got to hook into the Messiah and find out what's really. You can't make your own religion, and also you can't take it l'nachsel l'shlish l'revia. And these are two things that Yoshiel wasn't maspid, but he said a kina. He said a kina. This was a dirge. This was a moan. This was oi. What a tzaddik, Ruach Hapeinu Mashiach Hashem. What a Mashiach he was. If only he would have listened to me. If only he would have listened to me, and we wouldn't have had such a tragic death for Yoshiel and such a tragic death to go further. May Kayin Yirmiyahu Yoshiel. Really? Chaytz after chaytz, learn the Next Kehillah is Kehillah Yud Bais 12. And this is the Kehillah of Ohali Asher Ta'afta Adlai Gracious in Kisei Chaved L'Tzorfa. And this goes back to what we were talking about in Kina Ches, which I believe is an important theme. the whole Kinos here in the union of Beit Shemesh. But what this means, what translates to is Ohali, Hashem calls the Beit Shemesh his tent. Asher ta'afta adloy gracious. It's interesting, I don't know if I know the answer to it, but why is the Beit Shemesh called a tent? A tent is something which is temporary. Ohali. And it's not talking about the Beit Shemesh that was Nechra. It's talking about Ohali Asher ta'afta adloy gracious. This is the oil, the tent, which you wanted there to be in the world. Adloy gracious, even before the Brias Ha'olam, there was a yearning by HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a Beis HaMikdash. All Asher Ta'afta Adloy gracious in Kisei Chavod L'Tzorfai. And this is what I explained from Yeshayahu Hanavi, that Yeshayahu spoke, and he said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashamayim Kisi Va'aretz Hadon Ragloy, as we just explained. So this is in Kisei Chavod L'Tzorfai that he wanted the Beis HaMikdash. So Lama Lanetzach Shudat Biad Shoidim. If you wanted the Beis HaMikdash, even from before the Bria, why do you keep giving it to the hands of Rishayim? And Niyesa Kiroya Ba'oitia, now you become like a shepherd without a flock. Virashta Viraganta Ato Mali Poi. And now you're saying, Hashem is saying, this is a quote from Hashem, Mali Poi. What am I doing here in Eretz Yisrael? There's no Beis HaMikdash. So the first question is, why is it called an oil? But I want to continue this reading with you a little bit, because again, as I said, I want to try to understand this. It is Talmidim of Rav Soloveitchik here, and Harry, though, that can understand this better than me. But I want to read to you. The first Beis HaMikdash, the Beis HaMikdash of creation, represents the hispashtus of the Ein Sof. It's not bad for a little fisher Rosh Hashanah. The hispashtus of the Ein Sof. The Bria Ha'olam is the taking infinity, the Ein Sof, and putting it into this world. Infinity, if there's such a word. There are no limitations or boundaries, and it spreads and expands through the finite universe and infinitely beyond as well. So what the world is putting infinity and eternity into the finite world. But the Beis HaMikdash physically constructed in Yerushalayim was, on the contrary, an expression of Midas HaTzimtzum. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking infinity and putting it into this world, and where is he putting it? Into the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is the ultimate in the opposite of infinity. It has mamish walls. You can't go to the right, you can't go to the left. Only in this exact place of Amakim Asher Yivchar, Hashem Alekach Hashem. The Beis HaMikdash of Hispashtus has no rooms. A real Beis HaMikdash has no rooms, no boundaries, no mechitzos, because the whole earth is Malei HaKol Ha'aretz Kevodim. However, in the physical Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash of Tzimtzum, which represents Hashem contracting himself. The holiness is the Kedushas Tzimtzum. It's a different kind of Kedusha. Kedushas Tzimtzum. This holiness is not infinite, it is compressed. The Batei Mikdash of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and this is Kaballah, as you read through this Kina, it starts off with the world. The next Kina is Ahali Asher Kaimamto Le'Sonei Eretz. It talks about the Avos as the Makom of the Shechina. The next paragraph is Ahali Asher Patzto Lamani Litzur, is talking about Har Sinai. Lamani Litzur is talking about the Tzur, Moshe Rabbeinu. The next one is An Ahali Asher Nachisa Ba'ananehoi, talking about the Mishkan. You see what's happening here? Next one is Ahali Asher Kivanta Mo Machoin L'Shivtecha. He's talking about the Bayis Rishon. And then Ahali Asher Chanisa Me'as B'tuv Mipai Mipai talks about the Bayis Sheni, and then eventually about the Bayis Shlishi. So we're talking about this is Rav Soloveitchik, we're talking about a tzimtzum here. The Batei Mikdash of the patriarch of Moshe, of Kehillas Yisrael, did not have specific requirements as to construction. Nobody told Avram Avinu how to build his tent. The Kedushas HaMikdash of Avram's Beis HaMikdash, for example, was not Kedushas Mechitzas. Adarabah. It was more open the better. It was simply that wherever Avram was present, the Mikdash was established. But the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim had architectural and structural requirements. The Beis HaMikdash that we mourn on Tisha B'Av, Beis HaMikdash of the Ta'im, was not a Mikdash established by the human personality, but rather by physical construction. It wasn't about Avraham, it wasn't about Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, or Har Sinai. It was about Betzalel, right? Building a Mishkan. And this is really the sentence that I want to read just in time here. Ultimately, the Beis HaMikdash will be the limitless Beis HaMikdash of creation. No walls, no building. On Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, Samach Vav, the Haftarah begins the Hashamayim Kisi, Haaretz Hatoim Raglai. This is because Rosh Chodesh is the day when the entire creation will be redeemed and sin will be removed from the earth. Then the original plan of Hashem, that the entire world will be the Beis HaMikdash, will be implemented. It means that the Beis, ultimately, we say, holy. It's all temporary. Avram Avinu is temporary, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Har Sinai. You go to Har Sinai now, good place to visit, you wouldn't want to live there. Har Sinai is not a Makom Mikdash, it's not a Makom Kadosh. It was a Makom of an Ohel. That's one place. If you'll figure out where the tents of Moshe Rabbeinu were, so that would be interesting. But maybe it's good to say Kapitel Tilim there, but I don't know that it's called a Makom Kadosh. Incidentally, it is a Makom Kadosh if we know a place where there was a Nevuah. It's Kedai, like to figure out, like the tour guides here, to figure out where was there a Nevuah, and go to those places. You know, the good places to visit in Eretz Yisrael are, if you go to Pekin, place where Shimon Bar Yochai, we know exactly, there's the cave, there's the Maya Noveres Tachta, there's the carob tree, everything is right there. It's right there. You go to this place in Pekin. So I heard once that Chaim Kanievsky Shlita doesn't go to Kvarim, but he goes to Pekin. And he goes to Sunam. Sunam is where the Isha Shunam is. Those were two places of Nevuah, of being Makabel from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Those are two places he goes. You go to those two places. Sunam, you got to go with the bodyguard maybe, but Pekin is good. Go to Sunam too. And Sunam's named after the Isha Shunam, it's an Arab village. You go there and you feel a certain kedusha. So that's one thing, like where there was a nevuah. But where there was an Ohel, so where there was a Shechina, the Shechina is here today, gone tomorrow. There's no zecher of it. So Oheli is the pshat that it's a temporary thing. As long as it's there, it's there. The only difference is the Makom HaMikdash. And there the Gemara has a shaila, and the Gemara says, the Kim Shekit Shel Shaita, Kitshel Asadlam. It's an interesting sugya, but not for now. Why was that the Afka Kitchel Asadlam? We don't go, Shiloh has no Kedusha. No, all places don't have Kedusha, just the Makom HaMikdash. Maybe because the Aron is underneath, and the Shlomo Melech made those so it's like forever Kadosh there. It's the Kedusha, as you go, and the Avanashasiya is there. So the Makom itself has the Makom Kedusha. What I'm trying to understand here, though, is Rav Soloveitchik. Rav Soloveitchik says that ultimately the dream is, if you have this one up, I know there's a bunch, on page 311, let's read it. Ultimately, we're not davening for a Beis HaMikdash. We're davening for the Shekhinah to be sure in the world. So again, I want to just explain it one more time, but I think that the pshat here is that, of course we want a Beis HaMikdash, but that's not what the tefillah is all about. That's not what Tisha B'Av is all about. It's not about the Beis HaMikdash necessarily. It's about the Shekhinah being sure in this world. It's about this whole world being a Malchus Hashem. Whether the Beis HaMikdash is the Makom of the Avodah, but everywhere in the world there has to be a Shras HaShechina in the shuls, in your house, in your heart. Lovavi Mishkan Evna. Lovavi Mishkan Evna. Has to be everywhere, and that's what's so important here. So only, but Acher B'Kedem Mipoi, but at the end of the day, the Shekhinah has to be with us. Let's say this together. Yud Beis. Holy Kehilla Yud Gimel. Rabbi Elazar HaKalier takes the word Eicha and he dissects it and splits it apart and says what you really have here is a koi. Besides for what Rabbi Yudin said last night, Andrew says Eicha Lashon Ayeka. It's also Lashon of a koi, which means what? Where is the koi? Meaning many nevuos, the toiv were said with koi. Koi Amar Hashem, Hashemayim Kisi, for instance. Koi Amar Hashem, Oy Yeshvu Zakenim Muskenois B'Shari Yerushalayim. There's many kois, and a koi, when we're saying Eicha, we're saying where is the koi? There's something very deep here with the koi. Koi Yazaracha. Just tell you a quick story, just to cover the Kinos. I'm involved a little bit in the printing industry, publishing. So I went to, I had an appointment about a year ago. I had an appointment with the printer in Cholon. So those that don't know the business, all the color printers, the significant big color printers in Israel, are all in Cholon. That's where you print color. Other things, black and white, you print everywhere. That's where there's one printer out there. It's nothing to do with Tisha B'Av. I'm just telling you this in case you need to know. Cholon is full of color printers. So it's like a diamond district. It's a district. So I had an appointment with a printer in Cholon. And when you go to Cholon, it's at least to a place where I go, at least this printer, it's like very, very chiloni, I don't know. Like it's very, very chiloni. Like you don't see where I go, you don't see a kippah, you don't see a fine minion for mincha so easy. You certainly don't see a kosher shawarma. I don't know. Cholon, maybe there's other places Cholon. Where I go, there's not too much kedusha there. Doesn't seem to be. So I had an appointment in Cholon. I went to Cholon and I had to check out something there. It's coming out of the printer. It's coming out right, and there it was for you, Rabbi Berel. Right, Adina was printed in Cholon. So I get there. So the owner of the place comes over to me and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, it'll be another hour and 45 minutes until it's ready," because we got busy with another project. It was in the middle of the elections, I think, or something, and they were printing all kinds of posters. A lot of tumult going on in that particular printer. So I said an hour and a half, 2 hours. I know an hour and a half means 2 hours. I said, what are we going to do here in Cologne? for an hour and a half, 2 hours, like I came from. So he said, well, go and come back. I said, I came from Beit Shemesh. It'll take an hour to go back to Beit Shemesh. Another hour, we're going to go and drive and come back. Well, we're going to go here. We stand here in this place. Everybody's standing outside smoking. Like, I didn't find him out. I was really upset about it. Like, you're wasting my time. Why are you telling me a time? You could have called me and told me not to come. So he wanted to give me some nechama, this guy. So he says, say there, so you have an hour, 10 lanu shiur. Okay. So I looked at myself like, what kind of like sunnus is this? You know, like that. 10 lanu shiur, you know. So I said, okay, ifo ma me. So he said, I'm again shiur. Here in the printing thing, you know, I'll be margin a shiur, and they'll give a shiur. So he says, come with me into the office. I go into the office. I'm telling you, he got together maybe 25 people for a shiur. And like all the men, you have to see like all the men and women, all the men are sitting with like tissues on their head. and the women are sitting there, you know, and everybody's there. I didn't even know there were so many people in this place. You know, I know they came from all over Cholon to hear my shiur. And they're sitting in this office, and, you know, for them, you know, let's kill an hour with the rabbi. They all came to hear shiur, like a magnificent thing. So the only problem with all this was, I really have nothing to say. Like, you know, I'm not one of these people who just gives a shiur. Right? Think about it, I prepare, you know, like, what's the shiur? So I said, okay, I'll have siyata d'shmaya. So I said to the owner, who was sitting at his desk, chair at his desk. So I said to him, what's your name? Good place to start. I'm waiting for something to like trigger. So he says, Kohen, Ani Kohen. Bingo. Kehillas Shivtei Yeshurun. I said, you're a Kohen? I said, do you do Birkat Kohanim? I said, I used to do it with my father. Birkat Kohanim. So I said, and what do you say? Nebuch, he couldn't say the pasuk. He remembered a little bit, didn't remember. He couldn't really get out the Yivarechecha Hashem Yishmerecha. He couldn't say it properly. So I said that I want to speak about Birkat Kohanim. And Birkat Kohanim starts off, Ko Tivarechu as Pnei Yisrael. This is the way. There's a new Ko, a Ko. Here's a new Ko. Not Ko Amar Hashem. Not Ko Yazaracha, but Ko Tivarechu as Pnei Yisrael. This is the way to do it. So I said, Maza Ko. I asked them. I said, you know Hebrew better than I do. Maza Ko. Kacha. Okay, no, Maza Ko. So this was the Torah I said in Cholon. Torah's Cholon. Also minded that Avraham Avinu took Yitzchak and he went to the Akedah. And he said to his assistants that were with him, Shvu lachem po, ima chamor, va'ani, va'hanar, nelcha ad po. V'nishtachave, v'nashuva aleichem. And I will about ani va'hanar. Didn't tell him about the Akedah. He says, we're going to go until Ko, Shtachlev and Ashuv Aleichem. Come to Mekubalim and they teach, and I explained this to the Yehudei Cholon. Mekubalim come and they explain that altogether there are 50 steps between us and the Shemayim. There are 50 steps. When on the highest level, we can go down. In Mitzrayim, we went down Mem Teshari Tumah. Shir Omer, we go up. We go up 49 steps, and then we get to the Torah, which is the 50th step. So altogether, there's 50. 50 up, 50 down. Altogether, there's 50. If you're going down, they're called Shari Tumah. If you're going up, they're called Shari Kedusha. On the top is Nifloim Mimenu, and on the bottom is Mitzrayim. Kodesh Baruch Hu saved us at Mem Teshari Tumah that we didn't go all the way down to the 50th Klipa. I explained to them, it says that when we went out of Mitzrayim, we went to schus three things. Kinos l'shoinam, Kinos l'husham, Kinos shmam. Doesn't say we don't worship Avodah Zarah because we did worship the Pesach Micha. But we did dress like Chasidus. And we did call each other Shmerel, Berel, or whatever the Jewish names were at that time, Moshe. And Moshe was an Egyptian name, but it became. And we did Shmam, Levusham, and Shani. So we spoke Yiddish. So that was, everyone says, okay, those are three great things, right? Those are three great things. No, that was the memtes of the Nun Sharitum. It means to say we had nothing. We were worshiping Avodah Zarah. We gave up every drop of panemius that we have, and we were left with the three most chitzoniistic things that you could possibly have: what language we speak, and what we wear, and what we call ourselves. It's like the Bundistum, in the Yiddish theater, like talking Yiddish and wearing Jewish clothes. But there's no. Where's the tefillah? Where's the Yom Kippur? Where's the tshuva? Where it wasn't there. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us at the Memtes Sharitim. Avram Avinu said, you know what? Shvulachem poyim achamor, na'ani va'anar. We're not going to go all the way up and leave you here. Ani va'anar nelcha ad hab. We're going to go halfway up. 25. V'nishtachave. There we're going to do a hishtachava. V'nashuva aleichem. So here's a chiddush, says the Arizal, that the pshat is that you don't go 50 up, you go 25 up, grab what you can grab, and bring 25 back down, bring the Shekhinah back down to earth. Ani v'anar nelcha ad koi, v'nishtachava, v'nashuva aleichem. And we'll bring it down to you. The whole thing is to bring Malchus and Shekhinah into this world. I'm going to go up to Har Moriah. I'm going to get Kedusha, and I'm going to bring that Kedusha back to you, because Kedusha does not belong up there. Kedusha belongs with Yosef Haya b'Mitzrayim, right? The Kedusha belongs in Malchus. And Malchus is the Shar Hanun, and the Shar Hanun, unbelievable, Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't stay up on the mountain. And not only Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't stay up on the mountain, but Klal Yisrael couldn't stay at the mountain. Rav lochem sheves b'har hazeh panu u'seu. That's what we just learned in the parasha. Too much Har Sinai. Get out of here. Get into the world. Be malad etzotzos. This was what was going on. And I explained to my resident Kohen that Kehillas Baruch Hu es Bnei Yisrael is the pshat that when you give a bracha, what's a bracha? A bracha is a momentary climb into a place which is so high. And I said to this Kohen, that which is standing, mamish the Shekhinah, which is standing on your hands as you're being mavarech the people. And everyone can take that bracha and bring it home with them. Everybody, Kehillas Baruch Hu es Bnei Yisrael. You don't bench Klal Yisrael with nun. You bench Klal Yisrael with koi. Koi means I'm taking you, I'm giving you the Shekhinah. Kohen has the Shekhinah al Yodav, and now take it and bring it into your life, bring it into your home, create Malchus. And I said that what we have to do here is I said in a print shop in Cologne, I couldn't find a sitter, and I didn't have one with me, but I had my iPhone, and my iPhone became kadosh because I found Kehillas Baruch Hu es Bnei Yisrael, and I gave it to him. And I showed him how to hold his hands, and I said, I want you to picture that your father is standing with you. But there's a Musar of Kohanim to go back to Aaron HaKohen. And I want you to bless the people in this room. I want you to give me a bracha. And he did. He made a bracha, and he blessed the people. And Kehillas Baruch Hu es Bnei Yisrael. This was the koi v'chalam that I was over to. Not to do tshuva because they called me and asked me if I could give a shiur there every week. But I knew that one was Siyata D'Shmai, and I didn't know if I could repeat the miracle. That's the truth. That's why I didn't go back. So I didn't go back, but the bracha, I believe, was Makuim. I think we made permanent change in the makom of Eretz Yisrael to change everybody can make, right? So this is the koi. A koi is not just where's the good news, where's the ko amar Hashem, where's the Savarachos B'nai Yisrael. Yes, but it's a lesson in koi. It's a lesson of taking the Shekhinah and bringing it into our lives. When we have the schus here in Eretz Yisrael, Beit Shemesh, of hearing Birchas Kohanim every single day. It's like we go to Chutzlar. It's like that's like I can't. It's hard for me to deal with that. It's like I live on that bracha, but we have the bracha, even a bigger bracha in Eretz Yisrael of v'nishtacha v'nashuva aleichem, that we go home after shul and we're here in Eretz Yisrael. We can bring the Shekhinah into our homes. We can bring the Shekhinah into our children. Do one thing Shekhinah dick over breakfast. It's so amazing. Tell your kids about the importance of making a bracha. Tell your kids to share the raisin bran. Like it's so we could do things which is bringing the Shekhinah into our houses, into our lives. We can live with kedusha. It doesn't mean we have to look like a bunch of freaks. It means that we have to not look like a bunch of freaks, like normal, like beautiful, chesidic. Say something nice about somebody in the morning. In my house, is it true? When the kids were growing up, every single dinner. We went around the table because the kids used to come home fetching from school every day. Like, oh, I teach you to this and to that, too much homework, blah, blah, blah. So it was so negative, like everything became negative, and everybody. So I used to go around the table, have the siyata d'shmaya. Everybody has to go around the table and say, what was the best thing that happened to me today? Okay, thanks. You know what? Not just did the conversation transform, we have the Shekhinah in our house. Okay, I'll go next. You go first. It transformed everything because it's training our mind to think about positive things. Is training our mind to think about the Shekhinah. It's to think about the or, to think about clarity. What is the Shekhinah if it's not the good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us? What then is the Shekhinah? And what is the Siluk HaShekhinah? Focusing on the negative. So here we say to ourselves, Ekoi, where is our 25? HaKadosh Baruch Hu did his 25. Did we bring it into our houses? Did we bring it into the world? Did we bring it into our workplace? And that's the Ekoi, Yud Gimel, 13. Ekoi, Limer, Pardes Yud Dalet 14. want to introduce the theme here, which is a bit philosophical question. Eicha asher kvar asuhu tava many likvois nishyehu. How could it be that something which was already decided before even the creation of the world, why are we getting blamed for it, and why are we suffering because of it? The Gemara says, that's Rabbi actually, Amar Apia, Mitzchila Briyasi Shaloilam Safat, or in the beginning of the Bria of the world, Sifa Kadosh Baruch Hu Beis Hamikdash Banui V'charav Ubanui. That from the very beginning, the Medrash Darshans, Toyu V'Vayu V'Choshech Avnei Tohaim, which are the different Malchios Rishais, which destroyed us. All of those Malchios, Rapia put it this way, he said that it's Banui V'charav Ubanui. They were built, the Beit Shemesh was built, the Beit Shemesh was destroyed, the Beit Shemesh was built. So if that was for whatever reason, that's very difficult to understand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's original plan, so why are we struggling this way? Why are we suffering in some way? I know the answer. The answer is because Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam means that somehow or another, as I said at the beginning, the cloud, the unknown, is on the one hand a mechitza shel barzel. On the other hand, it's Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. It allows us to, it forces us to dig deeply within ourselves and to be able to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu where it's more difficult to find him. Like something like to find the ko is a difficult thing. So the answer is that the Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam, which it says about Yaakov Avinu, Vayishtachavu Yaakov Sheva Hamim Artza, Vayishtachavu LaEsav. 7 Hishtachavoyos that Yaakov did to Esav is the Baal term Al Shem HaKasav Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. Sometimes, like when you're just going up, it's hard to see if you don't see the grunginess and the charbon around you, the earthiness around you, it's hard to be Makadosh. It's hard to, it's not real. It's not real. The Shekhinah is not real. Yiddishkeit is not real. And I think I was saying in the women's class, it's such an important thing that I got to know why sometimes tzaddikim suffer. Nobody knows why tzaddikim suffer. Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't get a clear answer on that one. Why do the righteous suffer? But I do know what the Rishonim wrote. He says that in his life he went through Nisayan Ha'oini, the Nisayan Ha'osher. He said he went through the Nisayan of being poor, and he went through the Nisayan of being rich. It's also Nisayan. The Bali Musar like to say that it's a bigger Nisayan. It's a bigger Nisayan to be rich than it is to be poor. He went through the Nisayan, he says, of, this is not in the Kehillas Shivtei, it's him writing it in a different place, but it's not done in the Kehillas Shivtei. He went through the Nisayan of having illness, and he went through the Nisayan of health, and he went through even Shalom Bayis issues. He went through all kinds of things. And it's not until the end of his life, he writes, and there are 7 things that he mentions. It's not until the end of his life that he looks back at the whole panorama of events that took place in his life, that he understands that now when an ani comes to him and talks to him or asks him for money, he really knows how the ani felt because he was there. It's a different thing when if you were never hungry. You should never be hungry. I'm not talking about fundraisers now. I'm talking about ani. This is really an ani. If you're really an ani and you really just don't know how you're going to eat, you really don't know how you're going to get your next meal or how you're going to pay your rent. Just don't know. It's stuck. People jump off the roofs. It's not stuck. It's not pleasure. It's not like, well, why don't you get a better job? That might be true. It doesn't mean it's not true that they should get a better job. Maybe they should go to a manachai and get some counseling and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, right now they're hungry. So this hungry thing is, it's hard to understand unless you were there. So Rabbeinu Chaya said, Rabbeinu Bachya said, I was there. I understand, and I understand what it's like to be rich, and I understand what it's like to be sick. I understand what it's like to be have problems in my house, and I understand what it's like to have my children die, have a child who died. I understand these things, but I can understand that the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put me all through all of this is just so I can help another person properly. It's a big price to pay. It's not easy to be a gadol. I don't know anybody who understands what a gadol is would actually want to be a gadol, because it's a huge achrayus. People say, I want to be the rabbi. I don't know if you want to be the rabbi. We're learning the Pirkei Avos last week. We were learning that the big machlekes who should become the Rosh Yeshiva of Eretz Yisrael, of Bavel rather, who should be the new Rosh Yeshiva. So they decided Rabbi Yosef should be the Rosh Yeshiva. They're arguing about this, and they sent a letter to Eretz Yisrael. The letter came back. Rabbi Yosef should be the Rosh Yeshiva. Rabbi Yosef should not be tough. I want to be the Rosh. I don't want to be the Rosh Yeshiva. This is not covered. You give cover to a Talmud Chacham because he's holding the tzoros of Klal Yisrael, not only Torah, he's holding the tzoros of Klal Yisrael. So the thing is that there has to be a banoi v'charov, that's what Reb Chia said. That if it's built, it gets destroyed, it gets built. Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam, that sometimes you have to touch the earth in order to reach the sky. And so that's the question that he's asking, and the answer that we're going to give in another couple of Kinos goes like that. Yudal, Eicha is Hasher Kvar Asahu.
Ramat Bet
Feel there? You feel what? They're not. So you feel
Rabbi Yaacov Haber, Victor, Yishtabru,
Let's move along to Kinos Zion. Coming to the last of the Kinos of Rabbi Yaacov Haber, the original Kinos. And here he goes on to the Beit Shemesh, the Bais Shemesh, Zohar Asher Asad Sor B'Fin 16. Let's say a Kina, let's remember Asher Asad Sor B'Finim, which the Tsar was Titus Harasha. I'll say. Titus Harasha, who was the destroyer of the Bais Shemesh. Now, just before I get to the Bais Shemesh, just because we're going to make reference back and forth, Bais Shemesh, Bais Rishon. And the reason for that is, it's not because Rabbi Yaacov Haber didn't know history. It's because it doesn't make any difference, as we want to speak about in a few minutes. It doesn't make any difference really if it's in this door, the next door, the last door, or the Chorban Bais Rishon, it's all Silo Kashchina Basov. It's all, at the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to make a malchus here, and we're, like the Ramchal says, we're like no difference. Ein bein bnei Adam lemalachim. There's no difference between bnei Adam and malachim. Ela shemalachim ein lahem b'chira chavshis, or bnei Adam yesh lahem b'chira chavshis. That's what the Ramchal says with the Derech Hashem at the beginning. That we are malachim. What does it mean we're malachim? We're busy bees. We're here created to do something. We have the biggest job, bigger than Gabriel, bigger than Rafal and Nechal. Our job is to bring the Shekhinah into this world. And the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us, B'Tselem Elokim, is because if we have a job of finishing Hashem's work, then we have to wear that uniform. We're B'Tselem Elokim. And the reason why we have to act B'Tselem Elokim, Mahu Rachum, Afata Tia Rachum, is because if we have that job, we have to act in a godly fashion. And that's why we need to act the way we do, look the way we do. We look at Tzelem Elokim, Chaviv and Yisrael, Shenikru Banim Lamakom. In the Tzelem Elokim Gufa, there's even a stronger likelihood. It's not like all humans look the same sort of, but then you can tell when somebody's a ben of another person. It's even a stronger resemblance. So everybody in the world is Adam, Shenikru B'Tzelem Elokim, or even stronger, created the Shenikru Banim Lamakom. So it doesn't make a difference to chronology, and that's why it goes back and forth. So right now we're talking about the Bais Shemesh. Every minute we're going to talk about the Bais Rishon. But I just want to make one point really about the Bais Rishon. It says that we say it in the Kinos here that when they went into the Bais Rishon, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, just like teachers did, they found they found the Kruvim. They found the Kruvim. The Kruvim, it might have happened in the Bais Shemesh and in the Bais Rishon. But the Kruvim and the Bais Rishon were on top of the Aron, and there was other Kruvim that were big, gigantic Kruvim that might have lasted into the Bais Shemesh. But the point is they found the Kruvim. And not only they found the Kruvim, but they found the Kruvim Mu'urim Zebazeh. It's a Pliyat Summa, because we know that the Kruvim represented Klal Yisrael, and when we're Oisim Retzono Shel Makom, so the Kruvim are Panim al Panim. They're facing each other. Pneiim ish halachah. When we're not doing Ritzonei Shel Malkaim, like automatic turnaround, and means we're not oisin Ritzonei Shel Malkaim. So if somebody would see the Kruvim, they would know the condition of the Jewish people. Either they're oisin Ritzonei Shel Malkaim, or they're not oisin Ritzonei Shel Malkaim. Comes the Babylonians into the Beis HaMikdash. Umatzah Kruvim, they find the Kruvim Mu'urim Zebazeh, hugging each other. Oh my gosh, we're like really doing the Ratzon Hashem. Not only we're looking at each other, we're hugging each other. So what's the Harbin all about? If it's Mu'urim Zebazeh, so what's the Harbin all about? They marched out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim with these Kruvim, and they say, Rei Maisa area. Take a look, the Jews are no different than us. They have statues. They equated it to the Pesel Micha, by the way. Not only have statues, but there's Maisa Arayas. They're hugging each other. There's like this like sexual worship that was going on. That's the way they saw it. But what's the emes? Well, the emes is they found the Kruvim, Urim Zebazeh. So, Levi Yitzchak Pardes Project says that Ki ish chayav adam lifkoi das ish toida mitzviyasem in that year. The relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael before the Golus was so intense. It was a gather of chayav adam lifkoi das ish toida. The Mu'urim Zebazeh was a simon of an embrace between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Yisrael. Hoidem Shiatzu Mina Ir, before the Golus begins. Means that, I have to add on to the Barditchever, but I'm just saying the way I understand it is that the relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still here. Beit Shemesh is not here, and for many, many generations we're in Golus, and we're still in Golus, and the Nisim of the Beit Shemesh is not here. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a very big hug before we left. And Chayav Adam Lifkoi Des Ishtay Kodim Shiatzu L'Derech. This is what we understood when we saw the Kruvim Murim Zebazeh, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu still loves us. Why we don't say Tachma. That we're still here. There's something very powerful about the fact that what happens has to happen, and Shavi Yikol Tzadik to come. And unexplainable tragedies happen in the history of Klal Yisrael, which we're going to read about right now. But nevertheless, what happened here, the history is that the Roman occupation, the Roman Empire was very long, hundreds of years, the Roman Empire, and lasted a long time until the Byzantine era. It started early, and it wasn't founded to, the only thing that we Jews know about the Roman Empire is that they hate Jews. They did the Churban Beis Hamikdash. Did a lot of other Churbanos also before they did the Churban Beis Hamikdash. But the Churban Beis Hamikdash was like we were hanging in there. We were not becoming Romans. Like the Yevanim didn't work on us. The Greeks tried to civilize us and get us away from our culture. That didn't work. We had the Hashmonaim. And then the Romans were colonizing all the different places in the world, the known world. And the Chachmei Eretz Yisrael didn't give in. First, they thought that it was the Beis HaMikdash. This is the problem, so they were machar of the Beis HaMikdash. Then, after the Beis HaMikdash came the Ma'aseh Bar Kochba. So Bar Kochba was after the Beis HaMikdash. It was 70 years after the Beis HaMikdash. So they said, okay, so it's not about the Beis HaMikdash. So that's when they became very intense in the Asar Arugei Malchus. It's not about the Beis HaMikdash, it's about Torah. And it's about the Chachmei HaTorah. And that's when they killed Rabbi Akiva. But the idea was to try to assimilate the Jews. So the history was that in 68, in the year 68, so Vespasian Aspasianus was the governor, the Roman governor here in Israel, and he called the shots. He was the government, the occupying government at that time, before it was the real Whereas Klal Yisrael didn't have a government at the time of the Romans. They didn't have a government. At that time, they didn't have a government. So the Romans were the government, and when they decided to destroy a building, they destroyed the building. So they destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And Rabbi Yaacov Haber, went to plead with Vespasian to keep the Beit Shemesh alive, not to kill Klal Yisrael, not to destroy Eretz Yisrael. And as everybody knows the story, Vespasian said, "You're a very smart man, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I'm an agent of the Romans. I have to do what I have to do. But just give me an easier job than saving the Beit Shemesh." And Vespasian and Rabbi Yaacov said to him, "Seder, ten li avnen chachamel." So at least let us move to Ashdod and have a yeshiva over there in Yavne. That was what he asked. And Raful or Tzaddik gives some medicine to Tzaddik. He's fasting over the Chorban Beis HaMikdash for so many years. Get him doctors, heal him. Each one of these is an important piece of ruchnius that we should discover, but I'm just going to give the Rashi Broken. And Tachser Shalshalta to Gamliasa. He said, return the Shalsheles, the Messias of Rabbi Gamliel, because what they had done was, the Romans, is that they had stopped the Messias of Hillel, which went back to David HaMelech, because they thought they viewed it as a threat to their own Malchus. So since they viewed it as a threat, so they said no more Messiah in Klal Yisrael. So that was called, Hillel's grandchildren were Gamliel's, and that was called the Shalshelta de Gamliel. That was the Shalshelis of Gamliel. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan said, now you destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, you're destroying the Beis HaMikdash for a little shtetl yeshiva in Yavne. So restore it, meaning he was giving up his own job as the Nasi. He wasn't the miyuchas to be the Rabbi Yochanan who was Zakkai. He wasn't from Malchus based on it. So he wasn't really the one to be, so let it go back. Now in his mind he knew that it's the Romans think it's all over, but we know it's not all over. We know that we've only just begun. And Rabbi Kiva ended up laughing at this. It's not all done. It's all just we get going. When the going gets rough, Jews get going. So that's what was going on over here. 68, Vespasian was relatively reasonable with Klal Yisrael, but then he became the governor, the Caesar of Rome. And his son Titus, who was a Behema Gassa, he took over, and he was ruthless. He was completely ruthless. And this is a kina about what he did. He came into the Beis Hamikdash is also the Gemara, which explains this in this beginning. It's based on the Gemara, but he came into Zachoris Asher Asad Sor Befinim. Look what Titus did in the Beis Hamikdash. Shalaf Charboy, he pulled out his sword, and he went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Nachosenu Bies, Nachosenu means our Parnasa, immediately went down the drain, Kitime Lechem Hapanim, when he touched the Lechem Hapanim. So you know when Alexander the Great, many years later, by the opinion of the Bayis Sheni, when Alexander the Great walked into the Bayis Sheni, Shimon HaTzadik took him for a tour of the Bayis Sheni. Alexander the Great was king of the world. When he walked into the Beis Mikdash, there was no more Nebuah. That was the cessation of prophecy. Nebuah stopped with Alexander the Great. This tumah comes in. Imagine Titus coming into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. First thing he does is he puts his filthy hands full of blood on the Kodesh HaKadosh, on the Lechem HaPanim. The Lechem HaPanim was the Ruach that gave Parnasa to all of Klal Yisrael. So Lechosenu Bies Ketiyeh Kime Lechem HaPanim. The Gidar Paroches Balashtei HaPanim. The Paroches, this is why we take down the Paroches on Tisha B'Av. The Paroches had an image sewed into it, weaved into it, of a lion on one side and a nesher on the other side. Yesh la'ayin, a lion and an eagle. But people have seen imitations of the lions on the parochas. This is because of the parochas of the Beit Hamikdash that had this. Some say interwoven, some say it was two sides, but it had these two suras. Shtei haponim. When he Yisayim Gil B'Magim Ma'adam Yimadek Kav Tamaret Gangam, talks here about the fact that when he stabbed the parochas, his sword, he saw blood come out. As I'll explain, he was sure that he killed God. Went into the Kodesh Kodashim. It's logical. It was a miracle. Why did this miracle happen to him? Even why was he zocha to this anti-Semitic miracle? But he stabbed the parochus, and out came blood. And then he took the parochus down, and he put it on the mizbeach. And it says here, "B'nafshenu tavanu koitzi kleisharis." Now, each one of the kelim of the Beit Hamikdash represented, just like the lechem aponim were all about the parnos of Klal Yisrael. Each one of the lechem aponim was a different. Each one of them, the kleisharis was a different bracha for Klal Yisrael. Right? So I don't know exactly if anybody says, but it could be like if you take the thing, you pour the oil. So maybe now our cholents are not going to come out good or something. Like everything gave a different bracha to Klal Yisrael. So he took the he took out 39 kelim in the Beit Hamikdash. He took out the 39 kelim. He wrapped them in the parochus, which was on the mizbeach. He put them and besides for that, he brought a zayna with him into the Beit Hamikdash. He had a zayna that went around with him all the time. And Josephus, he calls her Bernice. That was her name. And he brings her into the Beit Hamikdash with him. She was like, according to Josephus' version of the story, she was saying to him like, enough, must speak. No, there's no must speak. And then he was mizaneh in the Kodesh HaKadoshim with Bernice, with the Zayna on the parochus. He wrapped the parochus and he put him on a ship with the kelim and the parochus and the kelim, and he took them to Rome. And now the Gemara is that the ship almost sunk, and Titus, Russia, taunted Hashem, and he said, "Ein koichacha ela b'mayim." I see you only have koach on the water. Yerushalayim, I was able to do what I want. In Rome, I could do what I want. So somehow or another, Hakadosh Baruch Hu said, "Okay." And he came into Rome. He built himself an arch, the Arch of Titus, with the kelim of the Beit Hamikdash engraved on it. Don't be fooled by the picture of the menorah, because he didn't take the menorah. The menorah was in the cave under the Beit Hamikdash. But they had many menorahs. They needed light. They had many menorahs in the Beit Hamikdash. People look at the menorah in the Arch of Titus and they say, "Oh, that's the way the menorah of the Beit Hamikdash looked." But the Rambam says not like that, because the Rambam knew that was just there were 13 menorahs in the Beit Hamikdash. Didn't necessarily look like the menorah. Probably didn't look like the menorah. Anyways, I just read that the Panovich Rav, the Shalom, went to Rome, and he went with a shamash, with an assistant, and they were staying in a hotel in Rome, and he woke him up. They arrived in Rome, and he woke him up. His shamash was very tired. He says, "Come, we have a mitzvah to do." So the attendant thought that, okay, we're going to go and we're going to raise money, but he says, "Rabbi, it's the middle of the night. We're going to raise money in the middle of the night. Come with me." He took him in Rome to the Arch of Titus just a few years ago. Took him to the Arch of Titus, and you can walk over the Arch of Titus. I did it. You could walk over the Arch of Titus, and he took him there. It was pouring rain, and he walked over the Arch of Titus, and he said to his shamans, he says, "Now spit, and repeat after me. Titus, Titus," he said. The story documented by the Titus. Du hast doch gemeint. You thought that you're going to be able to destroy the Jewish person, the Jewish people. You're going to be able to destroy Torah. You made this arch in your kavod. A beautiful poetic speech in Yiddish. We have it written. Ich bin doch der Panovich Rav. The Panovich Rav. He says, I saw the chorban of my yeshiva in Europe, and I see the rebuilding of my yeshiva in Bnei Brak. Titus Dunar, you're such a fool that you don't understand that you were just a fly in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. doing what the Ratzon Hashem was at that time. You took all the credit for yourself. You built yourself an arch, you made parades. Today, said the Panovich Rav, Heinz wie mir steht, as I stand here today, B'nai Brak is alive and well. In Rome, they make pizza. The end is mine. But the Messias is. Where's the Roman Empire? Who would have ever thought, before the 3rd century, who would have even thought that the Roman Empire would ever come to an end? Who would have ever thought, I remember when the Berlin Wall came down, who would have ever thought growing up that that would come down? Who would have ever thought that the Iron Curtain would come down? Not me growing up, we were told that's there forever. These things, they're all transient, they're all temporary. They come, they go, they're here, they're here today, gone tomorrow. Sometimes it takes 50 years, sometimes 100 years, sometimes 300 years, sometimes very expensive and a lot of blood. The only constant in the history of mankind is Klal Yisrael, the Panovich Rav spitting at the Arch of Titus. Ich bin da, du bist doch ein Gerard.
I'm Yisrael Chai.
Amen. So that's what this Kinos is about. Zohar es asher also tzor b'finim tezlaim.
Zohar es asher
Shalach harba v'holokah. I just want to make 2 points of shot before we leave this Kina. Because next year, I don't know if we're going to say Kinos. Number one is, we say here, Al Pesach Harbayis Hechelov, that the Romans came into the Harbayis, Biyad Arba Roshei Tafsarav Lahachribai. Outside Marabi Lazecher, he's street by. I want to point out to you that, to my knowledge, I'm not such a bucky, this is the only reference, and the earliest reference to the Kotel. I don't think there's any reference to the Kosel Hamarabi. So there's except for here. So the story here was that when Titus came, he burnt this wall and he burnt that wall and he built this room and that room, and he pushed this and he crumbled that and destroyed this with his destruction balls. When it came to the Kosel Hamarabi, he couldn't get through it. It just, a miracle happened. He couldn't get through it. And he was embarrassed that he couldn't knock down the Kosel Hamarabi. So he said, quick thinking on Titus's part, he said, you know what, my fellow Romans and countrymen, let's not break this wall. Let's leave it as a memory for that there was once a Beit Shemesh, because otherwise we're going to destroy it so much. Nobody's going to even believe that there was a Beit Shemesh. So this was his lame excuse for not being able to destroy the Kosel Hamarabi. What's the real reason, as Rav Kook writes, Hinei hu made acher kasleim. that the Shekhinah is behind the Kaisel, and it wasn't, and had nothing to do with Titus, like none of this had anything to do with Titus. It had to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan is that the Makom of the Shekhinah and the memory of the Beis HaMikdash should still be there now in the Kaisel and the Kaisel Katan, and it's still there. Just it reminds me that I remember years ago, the Smithsonian had a traveling museum called the Museum of the Lost Race. And what they did is they found in Prague that the Nazis, Yimach Shimon Zichron, they as they went from house to house killing Jews and destroying their houses, when they found beautiful Judaica, they kept it, enriched themselves with it, but when they found something that was very, very special, they put it in a museum. That was the Nazi role documented. Came from this address, this person, this name. They were pretty yuckish about it. So they took care of all the, they made this museum in Prague. And the purpose of this museum, this was Hitler and Yimach Shemoy's idea, the purpose of this museum was nobody's going to ever believe there was a Jew. You're not going to believe me in history 200-300 years down the line when I say there used to be a Jewish people. So I'll make this museum, and here we'll have a riot that there was Jews, and that I did the greatness that I did. So the same thing as like Titus Harasha. So then this was in Prague. They took over this museum, and a lot of it, if the families were alive, they gave back to the families. But what they did for the most part at the beginning is they did a traveling museum in the Lost Race, and there was a museum of the most unbelievable, exquisite Judaica that your eyes have ever seen. It was amazing because today, like a lot of times, like you want to buy like Leicester, it's made in a machine. They didn't have machines, right? They didn't have a factory that made challah covers. There was some woman who sat for, an old Safta that sat for 10 years or 15 years making this challah cover or a parochus for the shul. And this is the stuff that they took, unbelievable handmade stuff. So here we are. I was in Toronto where I saw it at the Museum of the Lost Race. I'm not lost. I'm here. I'm in Toronto. But not only was I not lost, the whole place was filled with like Israeli artists, taking pictures and drawing what they see, so they'll know what Judaica, getting ideas for Judaica. The whole thing was about remembering the past that no longer exists. And instead of that, what did he do? He gave us a Hezimsa, to build the future, so it should look something like the past. So this is the way it goes in history. So here he said, Titus said, let's keep the Kosa. The Nazis said, let's keep this Judaica. So they had one thing in mind. HaKadosh Baruch Hu thought something else, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu thought something else with the Kosa. That's what this is about. The earliest reference to the Kosa. Outside Marabi Lozecher history by the Tzad Acher Kaslenu V'Loi Rav Ribai. The other thing I just want to go back to for a second is that Titus took as it says here, that when Klal Yisrael went back into the Beis HaMikdash, after Titus was left and they looked at the destruction that had befallen them, they couldn't find the 39 klishars, right? Why? Because Titus took the 39 klishars and he shipped them to Rome. And maybe that's where they are in the Vatican, Ada Yom Hazeh, the 39 klishars. That's probably what's there. Although I know that there's still Caleb hidden here in Eretz Yisrael also. Just kidding. I know that I know this is a true story because I heard it from my Rebbe. I know that he said that his father-in-law, Rabbi Herman, offered a boss, that was Rav Steinberg's father-in-law, that he was walking in Yerushalayim with somebody, and an Arab showed him a tunnel and a cave, and he showed him the cave, and there he showed him 4 kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. Arab showed him. Nice Shaya. Glittering. Not old pieces of pottery like Van gold. And there were kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. Talmud Chacham, he was able to identify them as kalim of the Beis HaMikdash, but he didn't know what to do with them. He wasn't supposed to do with them. Take them, touch them, he didn't know what to do with them. So, different cases of what he did with the Arab. I don't want to go into that right now because it was an investigation at some point in Israel. But he had a son, Rav Nachum David Herman, who I knew very well, Olav Shalom, and he sent Rav Nachum David Herman to the Chavetz Chaim who was still alive, to ask him what he should do about the Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash that he found in the hills of Yerushalayim. So Nachum David went to ask the Chavetz Chaim, and the Chavetz Chaim asked him to draw a map, which he was prepared for, as to exactly where these Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash were. Where were they? And he wanted to verify the Chavetz Chaim's, by the way. I mean, it doesn't mean he was a Baki Mitzvah and anything having to do with Kudshim and Beis Hamikdash, Kohen. And he was the one who told the Chaim the spirit to learn Kudshim and Bris, right? So Nachum David came with a map, and the Chavetz Chaim looked at the map, and the Chavetz Chaim crumpled the map in his hand, and he burnt the map. And he told Nachum David that he says, whatever you know, you should forget. And don't tell anybody about it, and in fact, forget it. And tell your father, who he knew the Chavetz Chaim knew, Mr. Herman as he called himself, tell him that before he dies, he should tell over in the Megala to one person where these Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash are. So one person will know when Mashiach comes where the Kelim are. It shouldn't be a teku, you should know where the Kelim are. So Nachum David, who I heard the story from, I heard myself, Nachum David walked out of the room of the Chavetz Chaim, and he forgot where the Kelim are. By the way, he was an Israeli. He didn't forget anything. He didn't forget what place was. But he forgot where the Kelim, forgot what he told the Chavetz Chaim. The map the Chavetz Chaim burnt. He had no idea where the Kelim, he didn't remember anything. It was just like complete amnesia. And he went back to his father. What he remembered was that he went to the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim said you should tell nobody. And before you die, you should tell somebody where the Kelim of the Beis Hamikdash is. And maybe that somebody should tell somebody, but it should be somebody should know until Mashiach comes. We shouldn't have a gilui of where these Kelim of the Beit Shemesh are in the hills of Yerushalayim. So I don't know. I know that that before when it was a very mysterious thing. I'm telling stories here that when he was nifter, so a lot of people went into him to say goodbye, to say goodbye to the Zaydi of hundreds of kids. So they went to say goodbye, and Scheinberg was here in Ahavat Yisroel, and he didn't go. He didn't want. He's not. He's learning. He's learning at the schools. He's not. It was like a mysterious thing. He didn't want to go into the room with Mr. Herman. So right before he died, Mr. Herman says, "Avos Chaim Pinchas." The whole world is here. The ganze Welt ist da. Chaim Pinchas nicht da. So they told him that he's asking, okay, it's for Chaim to bring a mix. So he went. He was with him for 10-15 minutes. He went out, and Mr. Herman was nifty. That's all that I'm going to be megala to you today. But so Titus did not take all the Kehillah of the Beit Shemesh. But here it says that they came and they looked. Maybe he dropped them on the way out of Yerushalayim because there's no, to get to the boat. It was a struggle. But I'm just saying that he took out 39. So I just wanted to point out this. Before I tell you that story, I want to point out this nekuda here. 39 seems to be a pretty common number, no? Like how many makas do you get? And it's always 39. It's always arboim chaser achas. If you look at the Mishnah on Shabbos, how many malachas are there on Shabbos? 39. But how does it say? Arboim chaser achas. What's up with arboim chaser achas? What are we? We're not smart enough to understand 39. Like what's hard about understanding 39? We say 39. Easy number. So and it was connected to klisharis somehow. So I'll tell you the shot that the Maral says, which is an important shot. The Maral says that a person is created. This has a big nafkamina lahalacha. A person is created. In other words, an embryo in utero. A person is created in 40 days. So Gemara need the daflan. A person is created. It says which days comes in. Is that somebody? So this gidim and a person is created till 40 days. The Gemara says Maya ba'almahu. Lashon in the Gemara. Maya ba'almahu, which makes a big nafkamina. But at 40 days, 39 days, says the Gemara, the goof is metukan, it's already a goof. And on the 40th day, nizrak by neshama. Before she Gemara, nizrak by neshama. Kadosh Baruch Hu is zayrek by neshama. Doesn't blow it into his nostrils because there's no nostril. Just zayrek by neshama. So that's the mitzvah. So then from there he grows. So says the Maral, according to this Gemara, we can understand why when you get makos, like it's our boyim, it's the person who's violating their life by doing an avera. You get makos because our boyim chaser achas. Shama didn't do it. Shama's arguing with this whole procedure. Shama doesn't want to do that. So Shama is fighting with the goof the whole time. So you violated our boyim chaser achas. Beautiful Maral. The Maral in a different place. That's the Maral, by the way, in the Chudisha Agadlis needed that one. Let's find the Maral. The Maral says in a different place that the 39 malachas of Shabbos are of course mechuvan. You now get the 39 malachas of the Mishkan. So what's what does Shabbos have to do with the Mishkan? Not like that, but Sukkim there, right? It says you should build a Mishkan. What's the kasher to Mishkan and Shabbos? The kasher is, says the Maral, because the Mishkan Seif Kol Seif was Gashmius. And it was about, what? 39 Klisharis, which represented the whole Mishkan, which represented the pieces of the Mishkan. But then, there had to be Nizrak by Neshama. Mishkan needed a neshama. You didn't get it right. The neshama is the kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash. The whole time of the Yemei HaMiluyim, Moshe Rabbeinu was getting very afraid. Okay, we built a beautiful Mishkan, but it's just a building until there's neshama. He was looking for the nisim. He was looking for the neshama. He was looking for the anam, which was going up, and it was a peaceful anam peace. So it was the same thing. The malachas HaMishkan were the same thing. It was 39, or it was Arbaim, Chaser Achas. What you're doing is the 39. That's your Malachas HaMishkan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Malachas HaMishkan is the Achas. So even if you're going to destroy the Mishkan, or you're going to destroy the Beit HaMikdash, or you're going to destroy the Klishares, you can't destroy the Shechina. Tisha thought he hit a home run here because he actually punctured the Aron and he saw Dam, and we can understand that Dam. But what the kedusha of the Mishkan was not able to be punctured. What is Shabbos? The same thing. Isn't Shabbos the same thing? That Sheish Yamim Tas and Malachah. That all week long you're doing malachas, 39 malachas in fact. And I get the goof. Yom HaShabbos, we're still a goof, but Yom HaShabbos, we don't do the creative malachas, the 39 malachas on Mishkan, because we're concentrating on the Nizrak by Neshama. That's what Shabbos is. What Shabbos is the same thing as the Kedushas HaMishkan. What the Kedushas HaMishkan is the same thing as the Neshama, which was brought in. This was b'diuk what Titus couldn't understand. He could take they couldn't find the Tisha Moshleisha, but you know what? They couldn't find the 39 Caleb, but they found the Shechina. And then a paragraph later, they found the Kaisel. And the Hakadosh Baruch was still there. Lo and behold, you go to Yerushalayim, and the Shechina is there. It's there. Do you know, we're used to it. We're maybe too used to it, but it was clear in the minds of tzaddikim and gedolim, like Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, who was, came from Toledo, the one in Spain. I don't know how. He was sure, gedolim, the Bartanura, Gedolei Hador were sure that if they can only get to Eretz Yisrael and get to the Kaisel, that and maybe put a note in there. I think that was the Chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. He put a note in there that for sure the chayla in my house will be healed. For sure the miracles will happen. For sure I'll have parnasa. For sure I'll have nachas for my children. And you want to know something? They tried it and it worked because they knew how to access the Shechina. What we have to be careful with is like the pesel micha shabbat. That sometimes, like we say, okay, it's in Gashmius. So there's goyim, like the President of the United States and the Pope that are matamid the coastal with their papers. Welcome to the Shekhinah. Everybody's so proud of it. Oh, Pope or no, the coastal. Ooh. It's tumah. It's mamish tumah. Like we shouldn't lose our perspective, because otherwise we become pesel mechanics. A man, forgive me, indulge me for a moment, but a man in London told me that he growing up for some reason, I went there, I was at the Shabbaton in London, and the man told me, he said he always wanted to see the Pope. He didn't know why. He had a chicken and Sahara to see the Pope. He wanted to make an audience with the Pope. He was never successful to get an audience with the Pope. Maybe he wants to tell him good things of the Jewish people or whatever. He wants to see the Pope. He says he went through 3 popes and he couldn't get an audience with the Pope. Finally, there was like a group from B'nai Brit or something that were going to see the Pope, and he got tagged along, and he was able to go to this audience with the Pope, and he had an audience with the Pope. He said his whole world started to crumble. His business fell apart. Illness, his wife became ill. Everything became bad in his house. Antonio told me. And he says he's 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure, but he was 100% sure that his Yetzer Hara was to bring Tumah into his life, and he brought Tumah into his life. So I'm not, just maybe don't put this on the internet. I don't want to cause a pogrom or something, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that, we're so proud. This was this was Titus Harasha. This was Titus Harasha was our Boim Chaser Achas. So he was our Boim Chaser Achas. It's such a murderous thing. He was able to get the 39 clichés, and they're able to be sitting, some of them at least, the Tumah in the Vatican. It's so interesting how history works out, because they are the Yorshim of it, and they still haven't given it back, right? So they are the Yorshim of it. When Mashiach comes, we'll have it all. Maybe even get that cool building in Rome there. We'll get the whole thing, because then the Kedusha will become Tara, because it's always Chaser Achas. They can't take that Achas away from us. I don't want to leave this keynote without making that point. The screen went to Tisha B'Av. What happened?
12:46.
What time is it? Okay, good. So let's do what we're supposed to do. Until now we're saying Kinos until you test, which is all about complaining and saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu what went wrong with Klal Yisrael, all the things that he did wrong to us. When, as I said at the beginning, we really should be saying, like we say to Levaya, Siduk Hadin. What we're meant to do when there's tzara is say Siduk Hadin. So okay, we don't say Siduk Hadin at the beginning, we're entitled to say Kinos, but do test is the Siduk Hadin. And I want to remind L'cha Hashem Atzedakah. This is the other side of the story, if you will, that we know that with all our complaints about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Jewish suffering, have we done everything that we can to make a malchus, or did we worship Avodah Zarah? And do we stick with the Pesel Micha? And did we have Sinas Chinam? There is another side to the story. We're not angels either. And Ein Bein Bnei Adam L'Malachim Elozei Yesh Le'Bechira Chavshu. So we have to be angels. And let me remind you, what I said at the beginning, that a few paragraphs in, you have L'cha Hashem Atzedakah B'Foyel Asher Pa'alta B'Arba Asher Moshiim. The Lanu Boishas Hapanim, and all these Lanu Boishas Hapanim is, yes, we did do wrong. Because we're still hanging on to the Gashmias of Tzelem Micha. So we got to be careful with that. So this must be said. This is not a matter of history. This is a matter of life. This must be said with Kavanah. Rabbi side, Yud Test 19. Goy mi Hera, Goy mi Masters, Lanu Boishas, Livnei Shalom, Lanu Boishas, Hapanim. Atem Eidai, Mani Elihim, Lanu Boishas, Hapanim, Umas Elanu Elihim. Rabbi Haber the Solas for Shemesh. I have some of the where about one is the one Kinos, which I always skip, but let's just say because it's so relevant today, is a Kina which we're asking Hashem to listen to the Goyim. Why are we asking Hashem to listen? Listen to the way they talk, listen to their blasphemy. Not like today, like you could just say Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's not about our schusim, but just listen to the way they talk about you, about Beit Yisrael, about Eretz Yisrael. Listen to what they're talking about in the UN. Listen to what they're talking about in the European Union. Look what they're talking about in so many Muslim places and churches. Isn't this a Chilul Hashem? Isn't this something which is bringing down Kadosh Baruch Hu? So here's an interesting, for lack of a better word, we're saying to Kadosh Baruch Hu, don't listen to us, listen to them. Listen to them that are saying, Mi li b'shamayim. Ushma shagas torerecha. Listen to your enemies. What are they saying? Get rid of your shamayim. Let's just dig out the. They always try to do this, like try to dig out even the foundation. There shouldn't be a trace in history of you. Of course, they'll never be able to do it, but just listen to what they're saying, and for that alone, give us hatzlacha and try to understand the words. This hatei, it's a fascinating tefillah. Hatei lahayos If we get to the infamous story of the Asar Harugei Malchus, I always point out this wasn't a story. It wasn't that they gathered together 10 tzaddikim and killed them. This was a story that took over generations to take place. The first of the Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol was before the Churban Beis Hamikdash. The end of the Churban Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Gamliel Arishon. The end of the Asar Gemalus was Rabbi Akiva, which was well after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. So to span the time, but we connected the dots. We understood that 10 Gedolei Hadar were killed ruthlessly by the Romans. And we say this twice. We say this on Yom Kippur, and we talk about this here. In Yom Kippur, it has to do with doing tshuva. It's like the 10 were like korbanos to be mechaper for the chet of the Achi Yosef. That's why it says there. It talks about the chet of the Achi Yosef, selling Yosef down the river. This is not about tefillah because Tisha B'Av is not a day of tshuva, and it's not a day of tefillah. It's always good to daven, it's always good to do tshuva, but it's a day of avelus for the Churban. So this is an avelus for the Asar Arugei Malchus. So it said a little bit of a different lashon. Everybody knows the stories, and you'll be reminded of them as we go through it. I just want to move a little bit. I do want to point out historically that this Asar Arugei Malchus was not so pashut. There was, I mentioned last year, I think there were 2 Shitas in Klal Yisrael. There was one Shita in Klal Yisrael that we should play with the Romans. We should try to placate them. We shouldn't be in their face. We should try to cooperate with the Romans because otherwise they're going to kill us. And there was another Shita of the Romans, of the Jews rather, of Tanoim. These were all Kedoshim. Another Shita of the Jews that know that this is already a Chil Hashem and they're going too far and they've destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. And we have to be Makil Kehillas Shivtei in their face in order to go against the Romans. You can see Hanani ben Trajan, Makil Kehillas Shivtei sitting with the Sefer Torah in his hand, the father of Bruria, Ishus Rameir, and they wrapped him in the Sefer Torah and they burned him. You see other Tanoim walk by and they said, "What are you doing? Like, this is the wrong thing to do. You're getting us all in trouble." So there are 2 Shitas, but the Shita, I'm not clear what the Psak Halachah is in history. The Psak Halachah, there was Yirmiyahu and Yoshiyahu, and then there was Gedolei Hador and Gedolei Hador. So we have to listen to our Musar and listen to what the Gedolim say in every generation. But this was the story. This was the story about the Gedolim that held that we have to protest. This was the Arzei Halavonai, strong men that held that we have to protest against the Romans. Ad Kedei, Rabbi Akiva, and I mentioned before the Arizal says that when Rabbi Akiva was dying, they were raking him, and he was dying in pain, being tortured to death. And they made a student stand around him. Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, they made them stand around him so that they should be demoralized and they should see what happens when you're going against the Romans. Of course, they thought Rabbi Akiva, because he was behind Bar Kokhba, that he was rebelling. Well, he was rebelling against the Romans, and they wanted to show what happens to a rebel. And the Talmidim understood Rabbi Akiva was such a makubal, such a tzaddik, and he knew Kol HaTorah, and it was like Moshe Rabbeinu almost, that Rabbi Akiva, if he wanted to, he could stop this miraculously. And he said, so Rabbi Akiva, as he was dying, he said, Shema Yisrael, Yisrael Kara Kriya Shema. He said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It must have been such an unbelievable moment for those Talmidim that were there. It's still a moment to hear the Rebbe say Shema, and they thought to themselves that Baruch Hashem, the Ness is going to come, because all these Romans are here and they're all nobodies. And Rabbi Akiva's here and he's saying Shema. So what if he's saying Shema? So the Arizal explains that in the pasuk V'ahavta Hashem Elikecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol miyadecha in the tzir of Oisios, you have the Shem HaMefarish. He shows it. You have the Shem HaMefarish. We know the Shem HaMefarish. We don't know the order of the Oisios. But those letters are letters of the Shem HaMefarish. Talmidim of Rabbi Kiva knew it, certainly Rabbi Kiva knew the Shem HaMefarish. Here's the chance for the Rebbe. He's saying Shema. He's going to be mitzaref the Oisios of the Shem HaMefarish, and poof, all the Romans are going to disappear, and that'll be the end of that story. We'll have our Rebbe back. So as he's about to get to V'ahavta Hashem Elikecha, they're smiling. Hayamarich be'echad. He didn't go there. Hayamarich be'echad. So the Talmidim said, Rebbe, Ad Kan, why are you stopping there? Say V'ahavta Hashem Elikecha b'chol levavcha. Say the Shem HaMefarish already. To save us all. Ad Kan. So he says, Kol Yomai. It starts, you think right now that the mitzvah is to live. The mitzvah is to make a Kiddush Hashem. The mitzvah is to show how much we cherish HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that even while they're killing me, I'm saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and in case you didn't hear me, Romans, Hayamarich be'echad. It's Marich Miyachad. Sometimes the mitzvah, if you're like a malach, if a Basar B'dam is like a malach, the mitzvah is not to live necessarily. Normally, because the ikar mitzvah of life is to make Kiddush Hashem. Because when you make Kiddush Hashem, so then you're making Malchus in the world stronger. Baruch Hashem, a lot of ways to make a Kiddush Hashem without being raped by the Romans. Though today people make Kiddush Hashem that way too. But Kiddush Hashem is that. Is it just me, or doesn't everybody like daven for the time that people will say, "Whoa, a Jew! I know I can trust him. Do a business deal with him. You know you're not going to get robbed. You know it's kedai to do business with Moshe because you don't listen to Moshe. He's never going to say a negative word about you. He's never going to undermine you. Marry only a Jew. Don't marry a goy, because Jews are just fantastic. Jews are just gewaldic, midos. Not just they know how to cook, but I mean Jews. Wonderful Jews, beautiful Jews. Don't we want that time? So that's the time of Kiddush Hashem where, I once heard that actually read in the Wall Street Journal that Moshe Reichman, Olav Shalom, in his Olympia, York, is that what it's called in Toronto? Olympia, York. So somebody said that with him, the thing with doing business with him is you never have to write anything down. All you have to do is shake his hand, and he's going to keep everything that he said. Kiddush Hashem. So that's the Kiddush Hashem. We don't need the Romans. We don't need the Romans, but what we have to understand that our tachlis in this world is to make a Kiddush Hashem. The tachlis in this world to tell everyone to say, "Wow, the Jews are great. Where did they get that from? Oh, Torah. Where did that come from? Har Sinai. And what was there? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boom, boom, boom. Trace back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to make that Kiddush Hashem." So, anyways, this was the way they did it. The Arzei Halvanan, and we have to think about the way we're going to do it. Here's Hashem with Chaim Tovim Sholem. Arzei Halvanan Adir Torah Bali Trace and Mishnah with Gemara Gibari Pray Hamalel Torah Damam Nishpach Gura Hinam Kadoshei Arubi Malchus Asara Valeva Nikokita Benim Hikya. Before Garo Harabam Shemai Washat Haber Bopan Genis Zero Ram Shemai Other Edmund Hargib Nefes and Zergis Haram and Ogun Akasha because of the Zero Russia and the Sunday Alark the Vaiswa and Naira Islam Nina Valina Chief Alfi the House of the World on the Palmer family standard of Zero Lisa and So I talk over these names all maybe it's Rabbi Akiva, Iker, Harin, Taichan, Ashrecho, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Hanina ben Tradiona for Ramat Bet Shemesh. So Basco, Kehillas Shivtei Yeshurun, Kehillas Shivtei Yeshurun, Ramat Bet Shemesh, Rabbi Yaacov Haber, Tzedek like Noah, Young Shalom, The Kinos makes a big jump in history in Bais 22, all the way to the time of the first crusades. Started in Normandy. Their motto was Normandy to Jerusalem. That was what they wanted to do. They'll travel. They'll pick up schleppers along the way, and kill as many Jews as possible along the way because they weren't accepting the faith of Christianity, and the church still has to be very ashamed of themselves for killing. What I think history says about 100,000 people died in the Crusades. Jews, 100,000 Jews died in the Crusades. 6 million is much more, but it was very bloody and very bitter and very useless. And this was in 1096. One of the things that happened is the first Crusades went through Germany. And Germany, this was the time of the Rishonim, which we're talking about. Rashi is 12th century, right? So this was in maybe 11th going into the 12th century, Normandy Crusades, 1096. There was different crusades until 1148. So in those crusades, they wiped out all the Talmidei Chachamim, all the Gedolim of Germany. Germany was where all the Gedolim lived. The Rishonim all lived in Germany, but we don't have any Rishonim from Germany. We don't have any. Our Rishonim comes mostly from France, Rabbi Tam, the Rashi. So Rashi, then afterwards, the Rosh, Rabbi Yechiel, the Rosh, the Tur, Shulchan Aruch, that all came out of France because Germany was all wiped out, and they almost wiped out all of Torah and all of Klal Yisrael because that was the hub of Klal Yisrael was in Germany, and it was actually Rashi who was able he went to France and he created the yeshiva and created Talmidei Chachamim, and all the Balei Tosfos. There was Rashi and the Balei Tosfos. So all of his grandchildren joined the yeshiva, and the other Balei Tosfos they restored and brought back Torah to Klal Yisrael. So again, you see the typical miracle of the Jewish people. On the one hand, there's a kina over the death of the Torah of Germany, and it was terrible what went on. But on the other hand, somehow or another, we continued, right? We continued. And Rashi was the miracle of history. He was the pivotal point of history, that he went to France and he taught Rabbi Yechiel and he taught Rabbi Tam. And you know how big Rabbi Tam was. Like in Tosfos, it says, wherever we lived together, the Gemara, The Gemara says that when Rebbe died, Batla Kahuna. Like Rebbe was such a tzaddik that they said Kohanim are allowed to be matana to Rebbe. So Tosfos says that if I would have been at the Levaya, Tosfos says if I would have been at the Levaya of Rabbeinu Tam, I would have said the same thing. Batla Kahuna. It was like a kedusha, like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So this was the restoration. So here again, you have the Chorban and you have the miracle of survival that came with it. There's always a whole door of a door. There's always a Kadosh Baruch Hu who saves us and he wishes us. So this Kina, I want to just move a little bit faster. So is about those crusades, and those crusades were where the bishops pretended to be our friends because they looked like civilized, more civilized people, than the Rabbi Ying that were traveling through the city killing everybody. And the bishops, the Rabbanim at that time went to the bishops and said, can you save us from the crusade, save us in your palace? And they all said the same thing. They said, yeah, if you convert to Christianity, we'll save you. In other words, we love you as people, but if you're going to stay Jews, we can't protect you. And the Vatican also did nothing about this. So the bishops thought we were our friends, but they weren't their friends. I think there might have been Yechidim and stories and even bishops that were Jewish, but the Crusades were the Crusades. Of course, their idea was to come to Eretz Yisrael and to rebuild it and build the churches of Eretz Yisrael, because they said this was the place of Yeshua. So there are a lot of churches here because of the Crusaders, but eventually they forgot their mission and they just came here to Israel and left. They left because at the end, Besaki Haaretz Isam. Eretz Yisrael only for drugs Jews. Only for drugs Jews on the long term, and good Jews at that. Okay, Chaf Beis 22. Hafrishu mimene v'adaber Now we can move to Chaf Hey, which is also written by Rabbeinu Kleinmus. Rabbi Kleinmus, by the way, was the last of the Balei Tosfos. He closed the era of the Balei Tosfos, and he wrote this about earlier than him, the crusade in 1096 in Mainz. Chaf Hey. Yitain Roshi Mayim Veni Makar Noisla.
לא נראה דעתי. Yeah, I'll take it.
Kinos Rabbi Yaacov Haber tells us poeticizes the very famous story of how, which is echoed in the Gemara, about how so many different of our holy personalities in history pleaded for HaKadosh Baruch Hu that there shouldn't be a korban. Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov taught him, but everybody knows Rachel Mavaka al Boneha, that Rachel Imenu's tefillah was the one that was heard by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a little bit more specific than that. Chazal tell us that Avraham Avinu said, look, I was Megayer Geirim, and Sarah said I was Megayer women, and Yitzchak said I went on the Akedah and made myself a korban. And Yaakov said, Halisa Yud Beit Shvatim. Everybody had another reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu should listen to him. Rachel came with HaKadosh Baruch Hu with a different approach, Rachel Imenu. And her approach was that when she and Yaakov decided to get married, so they knew that Lavan was Ramai. And they knew that he'd try to make a switch between Rachel and Leah with his things. And so they gave each other simanim. So like they shouldn't be fooled. Rachel should not be fooled. Yaakov should not be fooled with Leah instead of Rachel. Simanim. And that was the plan for all the years. That was the plan. And sure enough, Lavan, true to form, tried to fool. I was saying last night that, like if you look sometimes the way the Chasidus chuppahs are, they cover their face completely, the collar. You can see how you can get mixed up between Rachel and Leah. It's possible. So Rachel said, this is all a good plan, but when she saw that Leah was going to be hurt, they didn't think about this part. Like Leah is going to be hurt because Yaakov was going to say, Lavan's not going to fool me. And then he's going to push Leah away. So they're thinking about Lavan and how he's not going to fool me, but what about Leah now who's going to get hurt? So when Rachel saw this, she was Meiser Asimanim to Leah. She said, I'm not going to let Leah get hurt. This is not the right thing. So she was Meiser Asimanim to Leah. So when she came, says Chadal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she says, yes, Yitzchak was on the Akedah, and Yaakov was Maimon Yud Beit Shvatim. But I gave the simanim to Leah. I didn't let an innocent person go through that kind of pain. But pain, the history of Pardes Project has to happen, and Lavan was fooling them. Pain can't cause another Jew pain. Can't cause your sister pain. So she was moisturized. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to her, okay, then you brought the Shekhinah to this world. Everybody wants to bring the Shekhinah and they're working towards it, but you brought the Shekhinah. It's not about the Akedah. The Akedah is we've only just begun. And it's not just about the Yud Beit Shvatim. Those are just tools. But when I can see that Rachel could be Moshe the Simanim to Leah, the Shavu Vanim Lidvulam. Do you understand what it means? It means that when Beit Mikdash is Nachrav Shtina Shechina, the way to bring the Shechina is the way to bring the Beit Mikdash. Is by being Moshe the Simanim to Leah. If in all of our grandiose plans, we have all these plans in politics and we're building things and we're building organizations and things, but what about somebody gets hurt on the way? Who's building more than Yaakov and Rachel? building schools, but what about somebody gets hurt? Your kid, I want your kid. What about everyone's building Kehillas Shivtei Yeshurun, forgetting about Rabbi Yisroel, So when that happens, the Shechina is mistalik. There's a seal of Shechina, and the Chasidus comes. When Rachel says, "Look, I gave over the simanim to Leah," the shavu banim ligvulam amar Hashem. Then the Geula comes, and the Shechina comes, and the Beit Shemesh comes. So this is a real practical avodah, I think, to give those simanim to who they need to go to. So this is our story of Yirmiyahu. I want to just move along, fast forward to Lamed. I think it's important that we tell the story about Nebuzradan. Nebuzradan was, we call him in Chazal, the Tavach HaGadol. He was the big butcher, not to be confused with Nebuchadnezzar, a different person. Nebuzradan was in charge of, what do they call it today in the army? He was the technology on the ground, how to destroy Yerushalayim. He was the man who was in charge of the department. He wasn't sitting in an office. Nebuzradan was there. And Nebuzradan, this is the first Beit Hamikdash, time of Nebuchadnezzar. Titus was the executioner of the second Beit Hamikdash, Nebuzradan of the first. The Chazal tell the story, and it's in the Tanakh, also part of it, that when Nebuzradan came into the Beit Hamikdash, everybody knows the story, he saw, and this is what Lamed Daled is about, he saw that there, in front of the Mizbeach, there was like blood coming out of the floor, bubbling out of the floor. And he said, Nebuzradan said, what's going on here? What's with the blood bubbling out of the floor? So they told him, this is just the blood of Karbanos. We bring Karbanos here. And so he went and he brought Karbanos. And he said that it soaks right in. This is not a problem. This is not what it is. So he said, what is it? So he did investigation himself. And he found out that 250 years earlier, they tried to bring the Pesel Micha into the Beis Hamikdash, and Zechariah was the Kohen B'Navi at that time, and he blocked the way, and he said, no Pesel Micha in my Beis Hamikdash. He was the Kohen in charge, and they killed him. They killed him right there. Eich Hareg B'Mikdash Kohen B'Navi. This is what this is clear. 250 years earlier. So, and then they forgot about it. So now Nebuzradan comes in 250 years later, and the blood is boiling. He's saying there's something here which has to be taken care of. So it reminds us of like Cain and Hevel, Kol Demei Achicha, Soyakim Min Ha'adama. So there's something here. So he goes and he kills all the Zakanim. Nobody was alive that did this, but he goes and he kills all the Zakanim, and the blood keeps boiling. And then he kills all the young women of the Sulais, and the blood keeps boiling. And he killed on that day, according to some estimates, he and his army killed close to 1 million Jews by the Ramat Bet Shemesh. This was the Ramat Bet Shemesh, by the way. We're describing about a story of the Ramat Bet Shemesh. This was Radon destroying the Beit Shemesh, killing and killing and killing, like I said before. It makes ISIS look weak. Decapitating, killing babies. Until Radon strangely turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he holds his sword up to the Shemayim, and he said, aren't you going to forgive your people already and make the blood stop boiling? I'm going to have to kill out every Jew. There won't be a memory of the Jewish people anymore. And when he said that, so the blood stopped. Like, was he somehow or another? He saw himself as like doing a shlichus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu here, and he said, "I'll speak already. How much shlichus can I do? How many people can I kill?" And it stopped. According to our tradition, he was Megayer. After it stopped, I don't know what shul he went to that would give him an aliyah. It's hard to it's just hard for me to understand what it even means. But that's what it says, that we okay, Malcolm Shabbat Tshuva. Hard to understand, but the fact is, I just want to say this Nakuda here before we wind down for the day. That what are the people 250 years responsible for what happened 3 centuries ago? That they should die, 1 million people should die in Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. What's the story here? And the pshat is 2 things. Number one is they didn't fix the problem. That's the first thing. Didn't fix the problem. Like, in other words, there's still Pasal Nicha going on. If you would have fixed the problem, maybe that would have stopped it. But the second thing is that at the end, there's no purpose. Where's the Malchus Hashem? The Malchus Hashem is Einoim Novata. The Malchus Hashem is not to be boyed, but Hashem Alikacha. So if there's no Malchus Hashem, of course you're responsible. Of course we're responsible for history. It doesn't make any difference. It's not nothing personal. It's not about like we're getting punished for the grandfather's chet. That's not what it is. It's the world is not making Malchus Hashem. That's what's going on. And Kolzman, you're not making Malchus Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, what did I create the world for? What did I create Jews for? What do you need a Beis HaMikdash for if it's not going to be my Malchus? So what it really comes down to is intergenerational. And Bezos Hashem, all the Chatayim of Klal Yisrael were cleaned out, but there was a tziduk adin there. There are Chatayim, and I think what we have to make sure we understand is to get rid of the Pasal Micha and to get rid of the Sinas Chinam, which is all connected. It's all connected somehow. I told you the story instead of saying the Kina. I hope it's good enough. But let's. I think it's time to finish, and I don't want to panic anybody here longer than necessary. It's not such a bad thing to say Kinos for the rest of the day. You consider sitting in a chair. With the story of the burning of the Sefer Torah, so much here that we didn't get to. But Mem Hey, so we finish off. Let's finish off with what the real shot is. Eli Tzion Ba'areha, that the whole Yerushalayim is crying. Tzion. Tzion is Gematria Yosef, Midas HaYesod, trying to come into Malchus. The whole thing is crying. But it's a different kind of a cry. It's not a cry of Misa. It's a cry, Kamay Isha B'Tziraha. It's crying like a woman in labor. A woman in labor is tough. Ad Kedei Kach, the women, when they're in labor, sometimes they say, I'm never going to go through this again. But then they do. Not to worry. They bring a korban and they go weiter. Kamo Isha B'Tziraha is the pshat that it's pain, but it's pain which is going to give birth to something, to a geula, something so special. So Yerushalayim is crying, but this is a crying which is not a crying of the finality. It's a crying of the beginning. It's the pain of birth. It's the pain of giving birth to the geula. That's the shot. I think that's the taich. Eli tzion v'areha. What is our crying about? To my isha b'tzireha, like a woman having birth pangs. The chipsula chagura sak albal nu'ureha, and like the loneliness of a psula looking for her bashert, but she's going to find that bashert. First, I just want to say that I really wouldn't feel comfortable and satisfied. Did the best we can. If we covered every tzara, and the oversight, not the tzaras of Yisrael. But if we could all just thinking to myself that if we could just all be makabel, like even one Indian of Ahavat Yisroel, one Indian of making some kind of a difference and some kind of change, telling you we can make a change. They have to change the ruach. There's to be a sea change. I don't know a lot, but I know this, that this is not this. We have to do a change here, and we have to start caring about Jews that are different than us, and we have to care about what we're doing and where we're going and not lose our way. Make sure that the institutions that we're building are matamas of the Shekhinah. That's what we need to do. So if we could all just take a second just to be matabo something, do something nice for somebody. Don't hurt people who are so close to you. We hurt people that are close to us, as Rav Steinman said. This is what causes pain. This is what causes Yisurim. We should be zeicha to Yerushalayim Habanuya. We should be zeicha to be mamish in our days. That's what the Gedolim and the Tzaddikim say. Mamish will be zeicha to see the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, Hashras Hashchina, peace in Eretz Yisrael, no more fear, no more pachad, no more terrorism. This will come when we stop hating each other. Everybody will stop hating us.